Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis. It's time for another night of Comic Book Roundtable. And with me tonight, I have Sergeant America. Mike, how's it going?
Catchphrase, me and Private Peanut are doing great here.
Sweet, Private Peanut. Great. And next to him, we have Michael Gretner. He is new to the show, but not new to YouTube. He's got quite a few videos out. Make sure you check him out. How's it going, Michael?
Very good. Very, very good.
Are you in one of those very blizzardy places?
No, I'm in Canada, like Western Canada.
Sweet. So you're not getting very like DaCosta and the rest of those guys over there on the east side.
10 degrees today and sunny.
Oh, there you go. And finally tonight we have with us Sleepy Reader 66 Damien. How's it going, sir?
Hey, great to be here on the West Coast also.
Yes.
So sunny weather.
So we're all enjoying our weather while Mike is like at 20 below and.
I got my Snuggie. I'm feeling good.
Oh, there you go. And you got your.
Yep, covered in
cat,
cats.
your cat there to keep you warm, so you're good to go. All right. So where do we want to start tonight? Anybody got a hankering for a boy? I want to start with this book or.
I'd like to start with indies.
Okay, let's start with indie books, of which I have plenty. So what do you want to talk about first, Damon?
How about 8, which I bought because of you?
Oh, okay.
I have to thank you for that.
Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not in trouble or something.
It's basically by Raphael Albuquerque, and it's a time travel, time bleed in kind of story, and it may not be totally unique in its story, but it is incredible artwork.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible use of positive and negative space. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a comic book that was so striking on that level. And he, as you can see when we flash it up, he uses very minimal colors.
Right. It's
the
really
story's supposed to be kind of color coded. You're in a different time depending on the color.
I was gonna ask that because you open up the first page, and on the inside it tells us that the past is green, the present is purple, the future is blue, and the meld is something entirely else, that yellow color. And so I read that, and I'm like,
blue or green in the scenes where he's in the laboratory?
That's blue.
Blue?
That's blue. It looks to be the exact same color that what's calling blue. I haven't seen green yet.
But is that the future? I mean, it seems like that should be the present. Like that's the time the hero comes from, and he's traveling into the past. It confused me.
I don't know. That made me wonder, but if we're going by the color combinations that are there, that's blue. Yeah,
it's blue, but it's not as blue as what they show when they say the future is blue, I think. It's like a greenier blue. Anyway, I really love the book, but I'm a little confused about the future. I guess we've only seen the future and the meld, then, in this so far.
Right, unless you're looking at his little wristwatch. When he's talking on his wristwatch, the screen of it is green, which would be the past.
Right.
If we want to take the colors to degree. But you're right, the art is absolutely wonderful. It's basically kind of like a black and white, but with this also kind of a gray tone. That all the characters, that's the only coloring the characters are ever in, with the exception of a little bit of war paint and some blood splattering.
Flashes of red here or there.
Right. So then the only other colors are your background colors, which we're assuming are cues as to where we're at.
Right.
And the meld, is that what they're calling it? The meld or whatever
it was. Right.
Is wonderful because, of course, it's got all the fun things that you would think would be in some mashed up whatever it is. It's got people that look like they're from Mad Max the Road Warrior, riding dinosaurs.
Right. And on the last page, we get a bigger view of it.
And it looks like
maybe second to last page.
Right, and the other stuff in there, it looks like he's hunting an SS officer in it. He's given this picture. This is who you're supposed to go back and get or whatever.
Right.
And he's made some bargain with the people who made the time machine. If he does their work, then they're going to do something for him. We don't really know exactly what that is. Yeah.
And I like the plot conceit that he he can't. His memory has been affected by the time traveling, and things are slowly coming back to him. It gives the story a nice rhythm of sort of unfolding and figuring out.
But the memory loss doesn't make it too slow. That was the only thing I worry about in these kind of books, is that 12 Monkeys and it gets dragged out too far. But it's like each one clicked like a domino quickly.
Right.
We
don't know there's something he wants when he gets back, wants them to do.
Right.
But we don't know for sure what that is yet.
Whatever his payment is, that's supposed to get paid whether he makes it back or not.
Yeah.
It was the impression, because at one point he goes, well, how am I know that you came through on your end? And they're like, well, you're not. And they hit the button and shoot him off to wherever it is that he crashes at, But I'm okay with the memory loss thing, because that also helps it work for us as a reader, because of course we don't know either, so we learn it as he learns it, kind of thing. So,
and it would feel like cheating if he knew everything but we didn't. So kind of doing it that way really works. So yeah, I'm impressed, because sometimes I worry when it's written by the artist that it won't be good writing and everything. I think he has a co-writer, but
that's Mike what I
Johnson.
wonder. Yeah, do you think this is Johnson's story, but Albuquerque knows how to make it work in the comic?
Well, it's credited. It's Raphael Albuquerque and Mike Johnson, with script by Mike Johnson. So clearly he's writing the words.
Okay.
The two of them came up with the idea. My understanding from some of the interviews I've seen is that Raphael Albuquerque had the basics of, I want to tell this kind of a story with this kind of stuff.
All right.
Friends of Mike Johnson, and they then worked out we hope, solid story as to what that was going to be.
I was also nervous because I think this is the Mike Johnson who writes Superman, and that has not been going well.
Supergirl. Yeah, he wrote Supergirl. He wrote Supergirl in the beginning too, with a co-writer.
Right, and now he's come back with a different co-writer, a woman who's never written comics before, but is like a young adult romance writer or something.
Right.
I thought he was a cover artist.
Albuquerque's the cover artist, yeah.
I mean, General Mike Johnson was a cover artist, wasn't he, before this?
There
might be more than one Mike Johnson.
Oh, that's true.
There's a Mike Johnson who writes Supergirl.
Right, and I kind of assumed that this was the same Mike Johnson. We may have to do some Googling afterwards, unless somebody who's watching Googles and tells us otherwise. I thought it was the Mike Johnson who was a writer who had been writing other stuff.
I think there might be little bios at the back. Let me quickly.
Do we know how many issues this will be?
Sorry?
Do we know how many issues this will be?
I saw that it is not an ongoing, but it doesn't say how many issues.
Yeah, I don't know, because typically most of the time Dark Horse will put a little thing on it saying
1 of 5.
Right, and there isn't. And of course my brain immediately wants to say 8, because of course that's the name of the name of the book. Which I'm assuming that's just based on the fact he has an 8 that he used a marker and wrote on his arm.
I'm wondering if that'll become symbolic for other things. It also, of course, looks like an infinity loop.
Yeah.
Right, sure. And on his arm, that's the first thing I thought it was when because they show him pulling back his sleeve, and he's got it on his sleeve, and of course his arm is sideways, and that's the first thing I thought it was an infinity loop. Yeah. And then he kind of sinks in, it's 8 because it's channel 8 that he needs to be on. So.
Well, and then why does he have a watch that if the channel that it's going to be is 8, no other channel? Why give him other channels?
Now you're asking too many questions.
Don't pick on the sci-fi, okay?
All right, sorry.
It's more phi than sci.
Maybe there'll be other miniseries where he has to hit 7 or something.
All right.
Because it looks cooler when it's got more buttons on it for more channels.
Well, and I couldn't figure out how that would work either. I'm looking at the buttons, so.
Yeah. I mean, if I want to be picky, this is too close to Black Science, I suppose. But I just really relished it and enjoyed it, so I'm in for the ride.
I agree. It did feel a little flat to me, and I wasn't sure that I would pick up the next one because of this. Because it seemed, like you said, art was wonderful, story is okay, but I didn't feel like I have to get the next one.
I like I guess what you're seeing as the flatness is I saw the hard-boiledness of it, and I kind of like the hard-boiled feel.
I'm definitely in. I like the art. I like the style. It looks like its own book. It doesn't look like other stuff that's being produced. So I enjoy it from a visually aesthetic praising, and and it's got enough of just the kind of goofy bells and whistles that I like. You know, like I said, it's got guys look like road warriors running around on dinosaurs. I'm good to go for a couple issues just on that. So.
Well, and like if I knew it was 6, 8, whatever, I could probably just go with the run. If I thought it might be 36, I don't know that I'll go for it.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's gonna be that long. The guy has other work commitments.
Okay.
I mean, he's also doing. So this was done in between him doing covers and doing American Vampire.
Oh,
I mean,
okay. Yeah,
he's the co-creator of American Vampire. Him and Scott Snyder are American Vampire. So I'm assuming that he ends up going back to that at some point to do another chunk of it. So he can't be doing this book.
Did we see that American Vampire is going to continue after Convergence? I didn't remember seeing that.
It's part of Vertigo, so it would.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a Vertigo book, and I think they're in the middle of a story run of some of the characters, some of the vampires going into space. I think so.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
As part of the space program. So.
That was my bad. I thought it was DC. Sorry.
I'll have to look those questions up because I don't know. I guess I don't know what the the answer is on how many issues it is. I'm thinking it's like 6 or something. I know it's limited. I just can't honestly say off the top of my head what it is. Like lots of Dark Horse stuff, they'll commit to a certain amount, do those. If it's successful enough, the creators are still interested. Maybe there'd be more if they have a story set up to be that way. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, that was cool. I really enjoyed it. Were there any books? Michael, Michael? Oh, Secret Identities. I did pick that
one
up.
too.
A non-Big 2 superhero book.
Yeah, and I did hear Damien's video, and I think we are definitely on different styles because I was looking forward to superheroes, and I really did like this, being that it's a non-Big 2 superhero book, and I thought it probably was a little flat in the fact that it hit all the same notes on, like, each person has an issue, there is a bad guy who wants to break up the group, and it's the spy infiltrates and he's getting ready to do something. So but I guess I was looking for that out of the book, so I was happy with it.
It seemed like a decent superhero book. I kind of thought it would have something a little more unique to it than that, but it seems like good for what it is, and I'm not sure if I'm going to keep buying it or not. If it were $2.99, I probably would definitely be buying it just because it's fun enough, but I'm just not sure.
So the basic premise of the book is there's this big giant superhero group of people. I can't remember what the superhero group is called.
The Front Line.
The Front Line, that's right. And we get an individual who is working his darndest to get to be part of the group, and he's got a secret agenda to basically find out who these people are, find out what their secret identities are, and then destroy them. He hates them for some reason, and he's working with somebody else who hates. Oh, well, we end up at the end of it, we find out who it is that he's working for, which I guess is supposed to be kind of a twist. I mean, it's a wrinkle in the fact that, I mean, that'll be interesting motivation going forward because that person is in the light is seen as somebody else as opposed to when he's in the back alleys talking to this guy who's infiltrating him and whatnot. I think what the interesting part's going to be is clearly all of these characters have secrets beyond just their identities. They're all living double lives as superheroes tend to do, with the exception of there's a couple of them. Well, not Vesuvius, but the what seems to be the leader of the group. She's the daughter of the President of the United States. So I don't know that she personally has secrets, because she at least doesn't have a secret identity. Everybody knows who she is and that she's the superhero.
Right. That's interesting. She is not secret.
Right, but beyond that, it seems that a lot of these characters potentially have some other baggage also, besides just being that. So for me personally, it might be interesting to see, who these people are beyond I'm a superhero, and I also during the day I fake that I'm an accountant. what else do they have going on?
Right. There's secrets within their secret identities. I guess that's kind of the interesting twist here.
Right.
The Speedster Polygamist, I thought, was one of the better.
Right. That one was
Makes a lot of
interesting.
sense if you're a speedster.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's an alien that's on the team who her day job or night job or whatever is she's helping her like mobster criminal brother rob banks. So
Right.
you know, she's obviously, you know, so I don't know. I'm going to hang around for a while. I thought it was fun. I thought the art was great. You know, it's a 4-color superhero book as far as the art and stuff goes. I think it's funny. Some of our friends on Twitter were talking about the fact that the main bad guy in this book looks like Alan Moore.
Or I love the superhero hideout, which is evidently a large, vanquished foe of theirs.
Yeah.
And they
An
live
alien
inside
biological
of the.
robot or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice. I have to say I was not that thrilled by the art. I at plenty of places I found it kind of sort of just manageable artwork. And with so many good comic books out there, with so many good artists, we'll see whether I pick it up somewhere. I can't decide.
I think the reason I like it so much is it appeals to me in the same way Runaways appealed to me. The Marvel's Runaways. So I think it's just enough of an eclectic group, and that's what caught my. I like it for that. I like it for some of the silliness of it, which is kind of like a Archer and Armstrong kind of feel sometimes to me, and so I think those are the notes that it hit that I wanted it to hit.
Yeah.
It has kind of that Legion of Superheroes for grown-ups feel to me too. You know, they've got a clubhouse and they,
Sure.
you know, people want to join the group and I don't know, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Just looking over comments real quick here. Comics to Comics says it is the same Mike Johnson who writes World's End and Supergirl. So, for confirmation back on that.
Well, he's
Secondary
doing a lot
writer.
better job as a co-writer on this than on Supergirl.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he doesn't have the same editorial issues that he has on those
Exactly.
DC books too. I mean, that's a possibility. So, Michael, what did you pick up for independent books?
Red Sonja, number 100.
Oh, right on.
How was that?
It was okay. It's like 5 short stories, done by different creators throughout. I don't know. It seems like it wasn't that good for a $7.99 price point.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's a big, thick book, though, eh?
48 pages. Yeah, it's almost like a mini graphic novel kind of thing.
Okay.
How many
Oh,
grams do you think
Superman.
that is?
Yeah. With Damien on his weighing of comics, yes. Oh. So it's like an anthology of
Yeah,
Red Sonja.
just random stories throughout different periods of her life. So someone she's older, someone she's younger, like just starting out, someone she's not Queen Sonja, but around that era.
Mm-hmm.
Is it also a different artist for each one?
Yeah, different artists, different writers throughout the whole thing.
What was your favorite story then out of those?
They had one. It was almost like a Game of Thrones type thing, like a guy called the Mountain, and he was a big guy with like a pig head. And she was fighting him, and it was actually pretty cool. She was freeing a bunch of slaves and whatever. It was interesting, but it did feel very Game of Thronesy, which I kind of like that. So.
Have you been a regular reader of Red Sonja?
Yes, the main series and all the minis. I picked them all up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I like her character, interesting stories, and I like that kind of. I guess it's kind of medieval, right? That
Right.
vibe.
Sort of fantasy medieval world.
Yeah.
Have you liked? Is Nancy Collins writing the main series now, or is that still Gail Simone?
It's still Gale right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you
I
liked
don't know
Gail
when-
Simone's run?
It's been really good, yeah. Yeah, really amazing, the whole thing. And entertaining every single time. It's one of the first books I read, so
I need to get the trade on that, I think.
Yeah.
it's definitely worth it.
Drives me crazy is I want him to put out a book of just the covers. because a lot of those Red Sonja books, they have like 6 or 7 variant covers.
It's
And,
true.
and they have such a huge spectrum, especially like when Gale first started. They have such a huge spectrum of different styled artists doing the covers. I mean, everybody from like Annie Garbowitz, I never say her name, which is, but anyway, she does like My Little Pony type stuff. From that clear to like, I don't know, Fiona Staples and like some of the other more classic. Trained artists that do some of the covers, they're just amazing. I would love to see them put out a book that's that.
It doesn't, even with this one, they have that. These are all, like the different variants they have for that, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's just a huge mix. It's kind of cool. I mean,
oh yeah.
Unless you hate variant covers, and then of course it's all horrible.
I just get whatever.
Digital edition, Travis. They'll show you all the covers.
Oh yeah. do you have to turn your computer sideways to look at them though?
No.
To be quite honest, one of the last digital comics I bought was Swamp Thing issue number 19, and it was the gatefold cover.
Oh no.
And it would show you the gatefold cover, but it was sideways, and you could not rotate it. So what was the point? What was the point of that? Digital fail.
You gotta have a tablet.
Let's see. That's my problem, I guess. Huh?
You gotta spend $500 so you can read digital.
Yeah. 8 is 5 issues long.
Oh,
Christina says that
So
8 is 5 issues long.
Thank you. I will get it for 5 issues. Yes.
Sure.
So it'll be like a science fiction novella or something.
Yeah. 5 issues is too short, but okay.
Well, enjoy the ride while it lasts.
That's right. We will. What else did we pick up? Want to talk about?
Did anybody get Plunder?
I did not.
Haven't heard of it.
I debated on it because I know I talked about it when I was ordering my comic books, and I did one of my videos where I was ordering comic books, and so I hummed and hawed about whether I would get it, and I was just picking up so many new number ones that one didn't make the cut. How was it?
Plunder is 1 of 4, and for that reason, I will get the rest of them.
So is that a Boom Studio book, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no! I'm sorry. It's Archaea.
Oh, okay. So it's under Boom Studio.
Yeah, so under Boom, yeah.
Boom Studio bought them out this last year. Yeah.
Yeah. The artwork is pretty rough. The one thing I do like is that the artist has very stylized people. One of them is born with a defect, so his face almost looks all burnt and mushed. Somebody wears glasses. Let me see if I can kind of... So with these guys right here, I mean, it gives you kind of a spectrum of what they look like, but, it's not stellar. I think the artist knows that if he puts 2 people that look too close alike, that his artwork isn't good enough for you to tell which is which. It's about Somali pirates who are going and apprehending Chinese boats. So they are way deep out to sea. And they have found this large ship that they're not sure about. They get on it. They find out it's an American, the U.S. Seeker is what it's called. And it's covered in this weird rubbery blubber-like substance. And they're trying to figure out what that is. And when they get to the first door, there's somebody's arm that's severed off at the shoulder, just hanging on one of the handles. And as they keep getting further and further in, they keep finding dismembered bodies, and their captain is just ignoring this, kind of like, maybe they want a little whack, or, he keeps saying another group of Somali pirates hit the ship, and this is what they did. And all of his crew is like, no, this isn't right. They get further and further in, it just gets more and more weird. They do find a couple people alive who are just all sorts of messed up. And at the end, they hint towards there was something on board that they were doing. So I don't know if they captured, an alien, if they found something deep sea, whatever, has not been revealed, but it's gotten out. So it's almost like a thing, like trying to think the John Carpenter kind of style, where people are trapped in a situation and the monster is there and they can't get out of the situation. So the story is just enough of a hook. It's just interesting enough with this being a different style. Somali pirates in this boat. that I'm going to go. It's 4 issues. I'm willing to invest 4 issues. But like I said, the artwork is a little rough. The cover was the best thing I saw out of the artwork, and it's the same artist. So,
well, that sounded interesting. Like it could be fun.
it can
unique.
be. Yeah. So, crossing my fingers, hoping.
Right on. What else?
Well, another comic that I kind of put at your doorstep is Rumble.
Oh, okay. Mine
Don't really,
again.
but
Well, see, this is the cover that me and you talked about, right? Well, last time we did Uncover the Covers.
right. That's an awesome cover.
Yeah.
It's very weird too.
Yes.
So this issue,
severed
Rumble,
head.
which had kind of had not a clear plot before, suddenly gave us a huge amount of information
Right.
about a kind of Lord of the Rings meets Cthulhu background, I guess, or mostly Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, there was this mighty epic battles way before the dawn of man.
Right.
Our main character was part of that whole thing. Kind of got tricked and captured, and by the time he starts to come back to being himself, we're in the dawn of where we're at now, right?
Right. He's kind of like Thor too, I guess. I said Lord of the Rings, but
Yeah.
Thor.
Yeah, that's what I had in my head. It was more. It's definitely mythical. It's kind of a
Right.
a Greek tale in that these figures from the before the dawn of time are these
Right.
larger than life, persons, and he was this larger than life warrior. I mean, he was the equivalent of a Thor or a Hercules or that sort of a thing. And he's
Now he's
basically
trapped in the body of a strong.
well, he gets his soul snatched out of his body, and the bad guys walk off his body, and then his soul gets basically encaged until this war is over, because they have supposedly these treaties that everybody follows, and after the war is over, you're supposed to let all your prisoners go. Well, because of an accounting issue, they kind of forgot that he was there, and he was hung up. His soul was hung up on this beam in the middle of I don't know where for millennium, a couple of millenniums basically, and they finally get around to releasing him. Well, he doesn't have a body, so he picks up he gets sent to the nearest body. The nearest body is a scarecrow. And so now he is embodying this scarecrow while he's looking for his body. Well, the bad guys are still out there. The people, the race that he's been fighting are still out there in some sense. Sounds like they have his body. That's what in the first couple issues we see these kind of what look like alien guys, a big fish, a big kind of a frog guy was dragging this mummified body around. Well, it's our main character's actual physical body, and he'd like it back. Plus the fact he still wants to wreak revenge on these people because he went to this meeting. It was supposed to be a truce, and they were going to try and hash out an agreement. And instead, of course, they kill him. Basically because he's the ultimate warrior. Get rid of him, and then of course they can win the battle. So yeah, now he's trying to basically wreak revenge on the people that he still thinks set him up. Plus he's trying to get his body back, right?
Right, and this gave James Herron an opportunity to draw a lot of weird monster-type characters,
Yes.
which was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Is that him on the cover?
Well, no, it's a severed head on the cover.
That's one of the monsters he's killed with his sword.
Looks like a digger.
Yeah. Here he is. This is him back in his fantasy days, back when he was the ultimate warrior, and that's his pet dog there with him. This
Right.
sword is like it's the equivalent of Thor's hammer. It's like a super weapon that everybody wants. Everybody wants to get a hold of it. That's what he looked like back in the day. Well, now he's literally a scarecrow. Let's see. Here's a funny page right here. There he is, stripped down. I mean, he has a big furry cloak he wears and stuff. The guy that's standing next to him is spray painting him with flame retardant. The type of flame retardant that you would spray paint around your Christmas tree to make sure your Christmas tree doesn't light on fire. Because, of course, he's made of straw, and the guy he's fighting against is notorious for throwing fire out at people. So he's literally starching him with all these cans of flame retardant to try and save him when he goes into this battle. But mostly, you're right. Mostly this, there he is hung up on the pillar, his soul stuck on the pillar. But mostly this book gave us all the background history this whole time for what? This is issue what, 3?
Yeah.
The last 2 issues we've kind of gone, what the hell is going on? The art is cool, but what the hell is going on? Well, this is finally, we're kind of at least giving us the background to know why this scarecrow is there and that he actually is a scarecrow and what's going on. I'm beginning to think, hey, Damien, do you think that cat is like the reincarnation of his dog?
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. I just thought it was one of those bad guy creatures, whatever.
Well, I'm not. That's why I was wondering. I wasn't sure which it was.
But it could be. It'd be nice if the dog comes back. So yeah, that could be it. And in the first issue, there was some couple like in the Everglades or something. I don't know if we're going to get back to them, but
yeah, or if that was just something that they passed by. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I still really like it. I was happy with this issue to get that kind of background information. The art is so great in it that I let a lot slide, I guess, as far as storytelling goes because of that.
I like it, but that Thor and Lord of the Rings background story didn't blow me away. I mean, it was interesting, but I was hoping for something. In trade. Sorry?
Maybe the story would end up being better in trade, like in big chunks. Right?
In a way, yeah. Since they don't reveal till issue 3 what's really going on, if you're reading it in a trade, it wouldn't be like such a weight to figure that out.
Like I said, I really like the art. I think it's funny. It's got elements in it that are just hilarious. Like I said, the guy that's spraying him down is kind of an idiot. I mean, he's just a. I mean, he's just a. Like I said, he's an idiot, and so he's funny. He kind of gives the levity to the stories that's going along because his comments are just kind of, idiotic, and so he's fun. I like it. I'll keep reading it.
Yeah, I think I'll keep reading it too. It's got enough interesting stuff, and the art is so unique and mind-blowing.
Yeah. Pretty pleased with it. So we talking Deadly Class next? Probably one of the best books in a long time.
This issue, too, was amazing.
Yeah, because we were left on a cliffhanger last issue, right? And so we get some of that cliffhanger squared away because the cliffhanger was the two girlfriends, or whatever you want to call them, of Marcus. One of them is about ready to get her head chopped off by a girl cranked out on PCP, and the other girl, the official girlfriend, is gonna watch her get her head cut off because, well, you're taking my boyfriend and that's not okay, kind of a thing. I mean, there's more to it than that because there's that whole crazy. I mean, they of course fight between each other. They both come to. Well, I don't know if both of them do. But Maria comes to a realization that probably she shouldn't be dating Marcus either, even though she hates them for sleeping around on her, which I thought was cool. There's some cool storytelling and emotional stuff there. This whole raid, on children cover your ears, fuckface's house, was just totally nuts.
Yeah, it was nuts, and the different perspectives that you get from 2 of the different characters. It kind of goes back and forth, and they did really good with the pacing that way too.
Yes. Wes Craig's paneling in this book is superb. I mean, the way the panels work, how it makes you read the book, how it creates so much energy and speed as you're reading it, as the crazy stuff happens, is just. I think incredible. I mean, the way he can squeeze in the panels and to create a pacing, of some of the stuff that goes on to build the intensity of what I'm getting throttled, the face-to-face. And of course, the Rick Remender's writing is absolutely crazy. Here, these characters are so over the top in some ways, but it makes them so cool at the same time. Like this trailer trash guy here, that's basically. As he's throttling the life out of Maria, is giving a treatise on why trailer trash is the last subgenre to be picked on and beat up, and why that shouldn't be the case. That they're part of the true Americana. I mean, this whole long speech as he's throttling the daylights out of these assassins and stuff is just I don't know, it's just really cool.
This is my favorite panel there. With the gunshot and everything?
Oh, yes. Yes, we get a reveal towards the end of it that that our main villain has captured the evil school teacher, has probably had the evil school teacher captured for a number of years.
Yeah.
Locked in a cage with a little piggy snout. That's the only piece of clothing she's wearing. Little piggy snout. And yeah, and our bad guy goes to shoot Marcus, and Marcus steps out of the way just well enough that it clips the teacher instead. But yeah, it's twisted and cool. And the whole thing at the very end of this, the whole premise for breaking into this place was they needed to retrieve the body of one of their fallen friends. Well, not friends. Somebody they killed. They need to hide because they don't want his dad to find out, because his dad is like the head of all the cartels, kind of a thing. And that kind of really, they do retrieve it, but that backfires on them really badly.
Yeah.
by the end of the book. But it's awesome. I love that book. Everything about that book, the writing in it, the characters that are in it, especially the art, the way the panels lay and stuff to create the energy in the book is pretty amazing.
What number issue is it on?
This would be 11. There are 2 trades out now.
Others read the first and liked it. It's funny, in the trade I couldn't tell where the issues broke.
Oh, they didn't give you any separation, huh? Huh.
No, not that I recall.
Yeah, because the second February is when the second trade comes out. So
cool.
If you like violence and you like some swearing and you like teenage angst amongst assassins,
that's what I've always wanted.
I know it is. I know it is. You just didn't know it, but it is. It's what you wanted.
It's just great storytelling too.
It is. From a purely craftsman standpoint of a comic, I think it's very well done on that too. That's why I keep talking about the panel layouts and whatnot of it too.
Yeah.
It makes it my thing, even if it wasn't my thing. So, any other indie books we want to talk about?
Manifest Destiny.
Okay.
I would say that it is the continued story of it. Lewis and Clark continue along. Sacagawea is getting ready to give birth shortly, and they find another arch, and at this point, everybody on the boat says, "No, we don't want to do this anymore." And at that point, Lewis and Clark reminds them that, well, if you don't want to, you can go ahead and strip down out of all your gear and head into the forest and hope that you make it back to civilization. And at that point, if we find you, you will be a traitor and killed.
Wow.
But, yeah. It still continues along. I mean, it's all about the little weird things that they find. And unfortunately to me, I like the story, but it's starting to get a little slow on, it is a long, long trek. And I'm hoping that's what they're trying to convey to the reader, is that, they're getting wore down, because I feel wore down when I read it a little bit. But I still like it enough that I'll pick up the next issue, because I know if it's not this one, the next issue is going to go bananas, bonkers. People are going to start getting slaughtered left and right. They found another arch, and it's made out of dung, and I'm sure it's either a termite-like creature or something that's in there, because you can see the holes where it's going to come out of. Very, sci-fi monster darkness. You found the hive, and something will come out of the hive. So that's the point that we're at. Plus, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Sacagawea and what's wrong with her. So.
Cool. I'm glad I'm not getting that anymore, though, because it sounds like it's not. I mean, the long drag of it would drive me crazy. Yeah. Waiting for him to get to the next, whatever that is.
Yeah, I'll let you know when they get there, and when they kill off your buddy.
No, he's gonna stay around forever. He's the person to hate, right? So he's gonna be in the book for forever. So. Yeah. Ugh. So I read issue 2 of Burning Fields. This is a Boom Studio book. I know a lot of people didn't care for it. The first issue didn't like the art on it. I was going to stick with it. My first problem isn't the art, as in I don't care for the art, but this is set in the Middle East. We've got both American and people of Middle Eastern descent in Iraq, Persians, you know, and the like. But I would think that I would be able to look at a picture, right, and would be able to tell you which person by looking at the picture is Persian, I would guess, and which person is, I mean, is like an American. Like I would be able to tell the difference between the blonde female protagonist and the Iraqi male protagonist in this. And other than one has lighter hair than the other, I don't 100% know that I can. And so I guess I have a problem with that, is that you get these crowd shots, and the crowd shots don't look any different than anything else. The way it's lit and colored doesn't lend me to believe that there is, like these two guys. This guy is supposed to be of Persian or Arab descent, and this is a American, and I don't see enough of a difference to establish where I'm at. So I don't know, and they are talking to lots of different people. They're out in the field talking to people, and I don't know if they're interviewing somebody who's a contracted person or somebody who's a local, and it makes it hard for me to determine what I mean, it's supposed to be a mystery, and I should be getting information from these characters, and depending on what character I'm talking to, depends on what information I get. And without that visual cue, I'm having a hard time figuring out what it is I'm being told or not being told, and so it is detracting a lot from the comic. So I have an issue with the art in that sense. In the style of the art, I don't have a problem with as far as how dark it is and that sort of thing. I like the covers, but
is the artist doing the coloring, or is there someone else who's doing that?
There's somebody else doing the coloring, but I would think it's more than just a coloring issue. But yeah, colors are by somebody else. So I don't. It's okay. There wasn't a whole lot in this issue, unfortunately. This is 2 of 8, and this issue didn't move the story forward in any way. And because it doesn't have awesome art in it, like Rumble, for instance, it makes it harder for me to want to continue to read it. Whereas, like I said, at least like with Rumble, we may not have known what was going on, but it still looked really cool while I was looking at it. This didn't have anything to make it gripping.
Do you have 2 more issues already ordered?
Yes.
So it must be tempting to just keep going for 8 issues once you've already ordered half of the series.
Yeah. Probably chances are I'm not going to order anymore. The next time I go to do an order, I won't order it, and if then I get issue 3 and issue 3 knocks my socks off suddenly, I will scramble to try and get that one issue that I'll be missing in the middle. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to do. It's just a little inconvenient.
Right.
And potentially a little more expensive because, of course, I may be paying the shipping for a single issue, which can be spendy. Because I know there's no way this is sitting on the bookshelf at the chain store. You know, I'm fairly confident, unless it's a hot book. You know, Marvel and DC books, typically I can find those sitting on the shelf. Odd indie books are a lot harder to come by as far as that kind of thing goes. So, yeah. Yeah. Any other indie books we want to talk about? I have a whole bunch more that I read, but I don't need to be talking about it just to hear myself.
Haven't gotten to most of mine. The only other one I read was Bitch Planet, but I'm not sure what to say about it.
So, yeah, Bitch Planet. This is the story that's a secret origin of Penny Roll, right? It's just that. We get a basic background of where she comes from, right? Kind of what she believes. My biggest issue with it is, and this will probably light some people up, and that's okay. I just can't imagine living in a world that is this. as blatant as it is in this issue, as far as her size, her physical size, is an affront to society and the nation. And I mean, I get the message that's there. You know, I get that. I get that there are lots of people in the world that if you're not a perfect size, whatever, you know, you're grotesque, you shouldn't exist, or you should, you know, whatever, you should hide yourself away someplace. I get that, but I can't imagine on a governmental level that you can be arrested and imprisoned for not being the ideal weight. And that's the impression I got here, is that they clearly think that she's an affront to society, that just by dint of her size, that she is criminal. And, you know, they go so far as to wire her brain up so they can show her what her ideal. I like that part. I did like that part. That at the end of this, they wire her up because they want to show her what she knows her ideal look is. You know, I'm assuming that they're going to think that she's going to envision herself as being some, you know, slinky, you know, sexy babe, and instead she envisions herself just how she damn well is. She is perfectly happy with being this large woman, and she's okay with that, and I'm okay with that.
That was cool. That was a cool part, but I have trouble connecting things, and maybe I'm just being too picky on something that's just supposed to be making political points. But her crime was smashing people in the face and stuff, assaulting people. Were they going to forgive the crime of assaulting people if she admitted she wanted to be thin?
Well,
is that what was going on? It just didn't.
But at the point that, I don't know, that's like a past offense. That's one of many offenses that she did.
Oh, I thought that was the offense that got her here.
No, because she
assaulting 3 people, but she may have assaulted 3 people in that one sequence.
Right. So in this, this is like a flashback to where she's working a muffin place. She owns a little muffin store.
Right.
And she gets pissed at the shallow, crappy people that are in her store, loses her shit, and basically beats the hell out of some of them. You notice in here, she's got all of her hair, and you notice that when she's later on in the current time, you know, she's in her prison orange, and she's got half her head shaved, and that sort of stuff. So I'm assuming that this is later on, that she's already doing time for a lot of those offenses. But you know, she's paying her time for the assaults. But that maybe if she got herself in shape and looked decent, that she'd be happy with herself, and then maybe she'd be a productive person in society again. Was kind of the impression I got. So these fathers, this I don't know, wall of white dudes passing judgment on her.
There's one black one, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, you're right. There is one. I didn't realize that. But you're definitely all guys. And they're called the fathers.
Right.
Which I want to know more about that. Yeah, are passing judgment on her. And clearly they passed judgment on her mother, too. Right?
Right. I would have wanted a little more detail on what her grandmother, I think, also.
Yeah. So was the offense that she was just a large woman, too? Was that the offense?
Right. Then that bitch planet would be full of large women.
I would think so. I mean, unless
impossible that for some people not to be large.
I mean, unless that's a rarity in this day and age of whatever time frame this is and stuff. I mean, like I said, I get the point. I get the point of the story, and I enjoyed it. I liked the art. The guest artist on it was I enjoyed. I liked the message at the end that she's quite happy being who she is. That was awesome. I actually went, yeah, okay, that's cool. I like that. I just have a hard time grasping the reality of taking a dislike for a body type to that extreme.
Well, I think it just, for me so far, each of the 3 issues of Bitch Planet have a different tone to them, and I can't, you know, is this satire, or is it, I don't know, or is it dystopia? Because dystopia, you kind of expect a certain amount of rationale behind it.
Right.
Anyway, to me, it's pretty rough. And maybe I was a bit disappointed because I kind of liked issue 2, and I was hoping more to see that plot continue, which will happen in issue 4. So I guess I should stick around.
To some degree, I do have a criticism of that. I understand the idea why every third issue for Bitch Planet, it will have a guest artist and it will have some sort of a backup story of a fleshing out of a character or the world in some way. That way, the artist gets a break, can see his family, and stay caught up on what he needs to do and whatnot. So from a working standpoint, I think that's awesome and whatnot. But I do have some concern with suddenly we started to get a story going. Issue 1 was kind of introductory. Issue 2, we start to get the premise of a story moving forward, and then the next month we get something that is not. I mean, it's about a character that's in that story, but it's not the story itself. So that may be disruptive, because come issue 6, we're going to get another one of these, and I do have some continuity reading ness to that I might find disruptive and not enjoy. I don't know. I like this issue. Don't get me wrong. I like this issue. I have a hard time. My pea brain or something has a hard time wrapping my brain around the idea of that. I don't know.
I don't think I liked this issue. I think it just, to me, it felt all over the place too much and not, I don't know. For some of the reasons you said and some of the reasons I said.
Sure. And of course, you haven't read BPRD Hell on Earth yet, so I won't talk a whole lot about it. Other than, of course, it's James. It's James Kieran art also, which it's awesome.
You can spoil it because I won't understand it on my own anyway.
Right. As I say, you will probably read this and say the same thing you've read about every other issue that you have, that you don't clearly know what's going on. We're coming up to the apex of fighting the monster that they haven't been able to kill. They do run into it again. Howard shows up at the very end of it. There's an awesome splash page of Howard charging on a horse with just his sword, getting ready to go to town. As a side note, I think James Herron is going to be at the next con I'm going to. I'm going to try really hard to see if I can get a commissioned piece of just Howard, because I really like that character. But it's awesome. There's a chunk of course, on the cover here you've got Mother Russia. There's an interesting argument between the head of the Russian equivalent of BPRD and this little girl that lives in a jar, who's not a little girl. She's actually an extremely nasty demon from hell. There's an interesting.
She called Mother Russia? The demon?
Yeah, she calls herself that. He hates that she does that because she's clearly not Mother Russia and never has been. Right. But in this issue, she informs him that she's been more Mother Russia longer than he's even been alive. Longer than he's even been alive and dead, because, of course, he's not really much alive either. He's pretty much an animated corpse at this point himself.
I saw that Mother Russia character once before. I didn't know who she is, so this is all good information for me.
Right. He ends up. I mean, they kind of hint at it in here. He ends up. The BPRD ends up going to Russia at one point, and they kind of help him. They go to this like radio place, and things are going crazy there because the radio's quit transmitting. And what the radio was transmitting this whole time was this old lady saying this phrase over and over again. And there's something about this phrase that basically neutralizes this demon. So as long as they have that recording playing all the time, and she's also under a bell jar that has some magic words on it, this demon is stuck. But this demon really, really, really wants to kill the head of the Russian end of this thing with a passion. And she tries doing her best to, like most devils do, it seems in literature, tries her best to kind of sell the, hey, I can get you what you want. Just let me out of here, and I can get you what you want. Because there are three forces at play here. There's humankind. There is whatever these monsters are that are pouring out of the earth because the earth's cracked open and all these horrific things that they're fighting. And there actually is a hell. I mean, that's where Hellboy was at one point, is from hell. So there's the whole hierarchy of demons and stuff. there, and this woman in here is trying to, this demon in here is trying to convince them if he lets them out, she likes humans. She thinks humans are fun while they're alive. She isn't going to hurt any of them because they're no fun once they're dead. Then they're just kind of moaning and groaning and walking around, and that's no fun. So let me out. I'll save the humans, and we'll kill all these other things, and we'll all be happy. And of course, he's not having any of it. But there's a great scene in there where he's in his office and he shoves through the files and pulls out a big giant bottle of vodka, a typical Russian type thing, but he was hiding amongst his drawers, but he can't drink it. And he's like sitting there going, oh, I wish I could drink this, because he is inside this environmental soup that he's completely sealed in. He does not eat, he does not drink, but boy, he'd really like to have a swig of that vodka right now. and I like that whole scene too. That was pretty cool. And I got a bunch of other books, but I won't talk about them now. We can move on. Let me look at.
Did anything else stand out? I mean, without reviewing it. Were there highlights?
Lazarus. I still really love Lazarus. This cover is incredible. I don't know if you guys can see that cover.
Wow, yeah. Like a painted cover.
Yeah, that wine glass here. Somebody's beating somebody else up behind the wine glass. A little bit of blood splat in there, but the distortion of the fight behind the wine glass is it's great. Most of this is a big giant fight scene. Our main character fights against another Lazarus. Whoever wins is right. Whoever loses is wrong, is blamed for corporate espionage, has to give up their rights to a bunch of stuff, and everything that's been created from that corporate espionage, which is really interesting because one of the leaders of one of these corporate families, he supposedly has some of that stolen information is in his body and allowing him to live longer and walk. So how they're going to extract that out of him, have no idea. But there's like I said, most of this issue is a giant sword fight, which was kind of cool, and really crazy stuff happens at the end of this. War gets basically proclaimed, and some people are, if not dead, really poisoned. That are really going to complicate things. So kind of excited by that. The kitchen was relatively interesting in the fact that all of these women who are basically running their Irish mob in Hell's Kitchen, their husbands start showing back up because they've been released from prison early. And just about every one of these ladies reject their husband and do not want to give up the family business. And you kind of get a little brief histories of each of these women. How did they get married? Why are they married? And what their relationships are like with their husband, and none of them have pleasant relationships with their husbands. So, and they're starting to do business with the Italian mob, the actual mobsters, as opposed to, because they're just kind of like a group of Irish families that are in this one little part of town, kind of raising hell and doing their own thing. But they've been so successful. These ladies have been so successful at managing and getting money and bringing in more people that the Italian mob has taken notice and is now starting to supposedly work with them. So, which leads to bigger complications because in here they kind of describe it as the Irishmen keep it simple. Everybody's up front. If you hate somebody, you just punch them in the face and go on. Whereas the Italians have this nasty habit of, even when they're supposedly getting along with each other, they're constantly working to backstab each other. So why do you want to go to work with them? But there are where all the money's at too. So, yeah. And Drifter continues to be a book that looks gorgeous and does not give me anything to care about the characters that are in it whatsoever. There's brief moments that might be interesting. There's one point here where I'm not sure that a character hasn't met a future version of himself. That piques my interest about this much, but otherwise, I won't keep getting the book. I did order it one more time, so I will have the first full arc. But I can't imagine what that arc is going to do that's going to make me gripped in this book. It looks gorgeous. It's kind of a cool world, what we've seen of it, but there is zero character in this that makes me want to back anybody, hate anybody, or be interested in anybody. So I need a character for me to go, I like that, I get that, or I hate that, and I'm not getting any of that from this, so unfortunately. There you go.
Yeah, I wanted to like that one, but it just didn't seem to work.
Yeah, no, and it still hasn't. Like I said, it looks pretty, but beyond that, it's not a thing. Let me quickly look over here if there's any pressing comments. I'll read the ones where people agree with me and not the other ones. But let's see here. Most of it's howdy doody, and I think I caught the ones where people answered our questions that we had about 8. And of course, people wanted to know how much. When they're talking about that $7.99 book, more people asked how much did it weigh. So.
Ryan C. has a comment that I thought was pertinent.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you see that?
No, go ahead.
I'm looking at, on YouTube, the page that shows all the comments. Ryan C. says, if we can wrap our heads around ideas like flying aliens who can do anything, billionaires who fight crime in costume rather than sit on their ass, or gamma-irradiated men turning into big mean green dudes rather than dying of radiation poisoning, surely the idea of an out-of-control, hyper-sexist patriarchy shouldn't be that tough a pill to swallow.
Just me. Must just be me, Ryan.
Well, touche to Ryan, but I do think you just read different things in different ways.
Right.
And when something says it's being like social commentary, and when it says it's being science fiction,
right.
I just naturally read it in a different way than I read a Superman comic.
Yes, I'm reading Bitch Planet, and that it could be a reality, in the sense that it's grounded in some level of realism, right? At least that's how I'm reading it. So I'm taking it within that context, and so that's why that part of that is throwing me off. Where clearly my brain is already informed when it comes to a superhero comic. I already have an understanding of what a superhero comic is going to deliver to me, so I know what context that I read it in and whatnot. And the superhero comics that surprise me and excite me are the ones that suddenly do something different with that. So I read my independent books in a different fashion, especially those kinds of independent books. You're right, Damien. I read them in a different way, and so that's why, for me, it's just a hard...
Yeah, and I find myself looking for clues as to how to read Bitch Planet, and I don't find them consistent enough. At points, it's kind of the mustache-twirling evil patriarchy, and other times it's something else, and I'm just not sure.
Right. It's and the superhero comic for me is very fantastical. Even when there's dark stuff going on in it, it's still, I don't know, there's something, for me, it has a different air to it, and so, like I said, when I'm reading Bitch Planet, when I read Lazarus, I'm reading it in the same way. I'm reading it in a, it's a potential, this could be us. I don't read superhero comics and ever think this is a potential could be us. I read some of these other books as being kind of a dark future reality, and so then I start thinking, how does that happen? How do we, how do we go from a place where there was racism and whatnot, and not that it's weeded out, but it's a lot less. At least there aren't laws that say that somebody of a different nationality is to the back of the bus or that sort of stuff here in America. How do we go from that to a future society where we're going to incarcerate somebody on a prison off planet because they aren't the same, they don't wear the same pant size as the average whatever else? That, to me, I have a hard time.
Right.
So,
and it's different for each person, right? Some people are loving Bitch Planet and it really works for them. So,
yeah.
Just depends.
Yeah. But that's why. I get the hypersexual patriarchic part of it. I get it, but even if you're hypersexual, I can see shunning Penny, like lots of heavyset people are shunned now, but literally having laws and literally throwing them in prison is to an extreme that I just, I don't know.
Well, they used to have laws against women who would sleep with people who they weren't married to, which now would seem extreme to stone them or whatever they did to them.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. clearly it can happen, or at least in this story it does happen. Like I said, that to me that just. Maybe it's supposed to. Maybe I'm supposed to be going, oh my gosh, that's incredibly radical. You know.
Right. This is not real news, but someone I know who. Jason, I can't remember his last name, in his recent haul video mentioned how he wondered if it's going to reach a point with so many good new books coming out all the time that the comic book dollars will be stretched too far, and there could be kind of a collapse of creator-owned because too many creator-owned people are trying to put out comics at the same time. And I kind of am feeling that way as my dollars are being stretched too far. Like, is enough new audience built up for all the new comics? Or, you know, if there were 15 really great independent comics out there, they could all be supported by an audience, but maybe if there's 50, there won't be enough money to go around.
How do you get to those 15 really good comics? The only way you get to those 15 really good comics is you put it all out there and let the market and the audience decide what are the top books and what aren't.
Well, what I'm saying is
because trade, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
Until they decide to start picking it up in trade instead, right?
Yeah.
Instead of even bothering with the first issues, and then all those books, you know, we're not going to have as many at all then, right? Because
they don't make it past the first trade at best, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Because if people aren't picking up the singles, they're not getting enough money in their pockets early to keep paying their artists to keep moving forward with the book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm saying there might be, say, a pool of 100 comic book buyers, and if there were 15 good comic books, they might each buy all 15. And when there's 50, if the pool of comic book buyers stays the same number, but each one is only picking 15 of those 50, then each of the 50 may not be getting enough money. I mean, this is a simplified scenario.
I understand what you're saying.
But I do feel kind of amazed and overwhelmed at how many good comic books I'm finding these days.
Yeah. For me, I say put them all out. I know there's lots of people that, like when I did, a kind of my video where I asked people questions and want people to answer it, one of them was, what would you suggest to Marvel, DC, and Image? And almost everybody's Image answer was, leave it alone other than putting out so many number ones. And I totally disagree with that. I think put as many out as you've got creators that are interested in telling something or interested in telling a story. Put as many out as you want to, and let the market and the talent, the cream goes to the top right and the crap goes to the bottom. And that's what'll happen ultimately. I think it may be that our dollars are being stretched really thin, and they're going to stretch to a point where you're right, it's going to break. But it's not like the whole thing's going to disappear. It's going to break in that I'm going to stick with the comics I really love. I really like my Saga. I really like this or whatever. Some of those top-selling books. Those books will continue to be the top sellers, and the other stuff's going to fall off and disappear. But I think it's good. I think competition's good. I think if there's these great books out there, it means everybody else has to step it up to produce an interesting, because there is so much competition, an interesting and good book. I mean, the downside is that now maybe you as a reader are going to have to work harder to convince the rest of your peers to buy the book that you're loving, because you need as many people buying as you can so you can keep your book around.
And right? I completely failed on Clone. No one was buying that, no matter how much I said it was great, and it's gone now.
Yeah, yeah.
And well, I think it's not just about the cream rising. I think when you have too much cream, a lot of the cream will sink.
So you're saying that there's so many good books out there that they should put a throttle on it and say, sorry, Brian K. Vaughan, Cliff Chang, we know you got this hot book you want to put out, but let's wait 2 years to put it out because we got this long line of other awesome books we think we want to put out before we can get to your book.
I'm just predicting there could be a different kind of bubble that pops of too many creator-owned books. I'm not saying
So-
any one person can decide how to solve that problem.
Okay, so if
But
if
I'm
it pops,
imagining
what
it'll
is it?
happen.
When you say it pops, what do you envision it looking like afterwards? Nothing. There's nothing there. It's just all gone. Image disappears off the face of the earth, and along with those other little independent books. I mean, what do you think that looks like?
No, but I think it shrinks back down, and more creators go back to Marvel and DC, and a lot of creators leave the field. It's certainly, in other bust periods, has seen large number of creators just leave the field. So I'm worried that instead of, say out of those 50 books, instead of 40 of them sinking, that 45, instead of 10 of them sinking, 45 of them will sink. Because all at once, everyone will find they're not making enough money. It's probably an extreme scenario. And I hope I'm wrong.
You watch a lot of other people's videos, right, Damon? You watch a lot of them.
I watch too many.
I don't know the rest of you guys how many you watch. I watch quite a few. Do you see in these videos you're watching across the board? Do you see less purchasing of independent books or more purchasing of independent books?
No, right now I see a lot more, and I see everyone like me, or a lot of people like me, just getting so excited they're spending maybe a little more than they can afford.
Well, that's a whole different can of worms.
And so I think at some point people are going to stop, throttle back. I'm getting close to that point.
Okay, so when they throttle back, what are they going to throttle back away from? Your assumption is they're going to throttle back away from the independent books and stick with DC and Marvel? Or do they go,
No, that's not my assumption. That's not my assumption. Like I said, each person who's picking up lots of independent books, if there's a limited audience out there, will only... I feel like I've already said it.
No, I get what you're saying, but I guess
each book will be selling 4,000 copies, and so all of them will go bankrupt instead of some of them selling...
Right. I guess what I'm seeing though is that the independent audience is just getting bigger and bigger all the time. It's not getting smaller; it's getting bigger.
Well, I hope that's true, and that's what I'm not sure about.
Well, just as a litmus test by the videos I watch, I see more and more people picking up more and more independent books. So that in my head tells me that at least of the videos that I watch, it's getting bigger. The audience is getting bigger, not by thousands clearly, because I can't watch thousands of videos, but that it's getting bigger. And as that gets bigger, that's a healthier market of independent books. The question becomes, as their dollars get strained, then where do we decide to make the cuts at? Do we get less superhero books in the big two and keep our independent books, or do we dial back and keep with the true and tried, even though it pisses us off lots of times, keep picking up the big two? I don't know.
Maybe it's old age and pessimism. I've seen every wave of large numbers of independent publishers disappear at one point or another. I've seen it in the 80s, I've seen it in the 90s. If I were paying attention in the 70s, maybe I would have seen the independent underground comics go out of business.
Yeah, I guess what I'm seeing though is that, and granted, I don't read books from all the independents out there. There's 1,000 independent companies out there that I clearly pay no attention to. The ones that I do pay attention to, I can't see at this point disappearing. I can't see Image disappearing at this point unless they... I mean, clearly I don't know what their behind-the-scenes business practices are. I don't know how much money Image Comics invests in their comics, how much when they've got all these number ones out there floating around, how much of their money's tied into it versus what the creators' money's tied into it. I'm not sure on that. But unless they're really hanging themselves out there, they're not going to go under. They may lose some of their market share back again if that suddenly snaps and breaks and collapses, but they're still going to be there. Dark Horse hasn't changed their business model in probably 10 years. They are producing the same sort of stuff that's been rock solid for them forever, so I don't see that company growing a lot, but I don't see it falling apart either.
But they used to be a lot bigger. They used to have the 10% market share that Image now has.
Did they really?
Yeah, they were once touted as the third of the big two.
That like in the late 80s to early 90s?
Right, and people thought they might overtake them, and it didn't.
With their Alien comics and Terminator comics at the time?
Well, and they were having Mask and Barbed Wire and all these things into movies and stuff.
Oh, okay. You know, maybe I'm wrong there, but it seems to me like their company has been the same for a lot of years. Oni Press isn't doing anything that's really changing them radically to put them out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think like Legend is investing so much in their comics that it's going to collapse on them either. I don't know. I don't see it being as dire as what some people are
I don't
saying.
think it's dire, but I guess I would like the current phase to go on forever, but I don't. And don't get me
wrong, I am frustrated as much as everybody else with the fact with all this new stuff coming out, how do you try and keep up with it all? You know, I want to try everything, quite honestly, and you can't, so.
I'm surprised that the creators don't want to save these big ideas for later on. You know, when there's not as much of a flood in the market.
Well, there's two sides to that. Right now, with it being everybody being so excited about it, right now, if you've got any kind of an idea, you're probably going to get to float it.
Yeah, that's true.
People their side.
And 10 years ago, if you did an independent comic, it would just disappear without a ripple. No one would even notice it came out. And right now, they're getting a lot of attention for them. So you make the gamble now. Now's the time to gamble. It probably seems to the creators.
Plus the fact, I also think that a lot of creators are excited by the idea of being able to do truly something that is their own. So if they're going to get the ability to do that, and right now it looks like you might be able to make some money while doing it, I think everybody's jumping at it for that reason too. You know, I mean, I know lots of creators who are excited to be doing superhero comics. You know, I do sincerely think that Scott Snyder has his dream job in life, getting to write Batman. I think he's very excited about getting to do that. But the idea of also being able to write his own stuff is, you know, pretty tempting too. So.
Which he's better at anyway.
I could agree with that.
I don't know. For me, that's debatable.
I haven't read The Wake.
For me, that's debatable. First half of The Wake is awesome. Let's not talk about the second half. Okay, so anything else independent-wise we want to talk about? Okay. All right. I didn't see any other comments other than I think Ryan's still telling me that that I should be able to grasp that whole concept. But at any rate, so what do we want to talk next? We want to talk Marvel or we want to talk DC? Michael, what do you want to do? What do you want to talk? Let's talk Marvel, right?
Yeah, sure. I've only got one DC book, so.
Okay. Let's talk Marvel. I actually have 4 Marvel books this week. I'm like a Marvel fanboy or something, right? Go ahead, Michael. What do you want to talk about first?
What about Magneto?
Awesome. I'm glad I read it.
I don't know. This book hasn't really been that great recently, but I think that this is the first issue that's kind of bringing everything back and making it better again. Like, from what I read in it, it was nice to see that the stories, you know, the main arc, like the overarching story, is finally, they're starting to explain more things again and get back to that from all the events and crap that's been taking over the book, right?
Right, because we had like, I don't know, it felt like 4 issues, maybe it was only 3 that were kind of thrown off with the Axis stuff. I like that to begin with, the Axis stuff to begin with, because I like the idea of Magneto, the of Jewish heritage versus Red Skull of clearly Aryan nation. I like that, but then they all kind of went wonky. You're right. This issue did a great job of getting right back into what the book was originally about. This basically Magneto versus the Shield, basically trying to hunt him down as he goes after people who are after mutants.
Yeah, it made me happy to read the book again and actually want to continue picking it up until it inevitably ends.
Right.
Yeah.
You think it's going to end?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen with all the Marvel books with Secret Wars. Like it's nerving.
Right, because there's the whole Secret Wars thing coming, and a lot of these books, Magneto, Loki, Ms. Marvel, Silver Surfer, they're all getting this added-on title of the last days. Yeah. So it's the last days of Magneto, the last days of Ms. Marvel, the last days, which has a lot of people pretty concerned that these books are being canceled. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think they're coming back. They may be renumbered with a new number 1, and some of these titles might not. Some of these titles. Well, yeah, because that's what Marvel's doing now, right? After the Secret Wars, it's a whole new universe. So let's start all the books over again. which is fine. Whatever as far as the numbering, that's how they're going to be. I don't think there's any point in continuing to complain about that. But yeah, this issue does an excellent job of getting right. I mean, you could actually skip.
Oh yeah.
Other than in the last issue, his surrender, you could skip the last 3 issues, and you wouldn't have missed a beat as far as what's going on, what the setting of this book now on issue 15. One of the things I loved about this was, up until this point, it seemed like it was pretty much a quiet kind of a thing that just Magneto was doing. In this issue, suddenly we now know he's got people on the inside of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's got this whole thing set up way in advance, and he pretty much kicks ass. The one thing I am confused on this. I don't know how much of the other Marvel books, Michael, you've been reading, because I haven't really talked to you about it. But of course, you have the villain group. What were they called? The Marauders.
Yeah, Marauders.
Which is a band of evil mutants, right? Basically, kind of. Sabretooth is in it. Is that actually Sabretooth, or is that like the clone of Sabretooth? I mean, is that actually Sabretooth? Because Sabretooth,
as far as I know.
Okay, because Sabretooth is in the rest of the Marvel Universe, and he isn't a crazy, bloodthirsty lunatic. In the rest of the Marvel Universe, he's one of those characters that when the whole Axis thing happened, he became a good guy. He never dialed back all the way from that. He's still a good. I mean, he's hanging out with the Uncanny Avengers right now.
And considering what happened to the character in this issue, it's kind of, I'm not sure. Yeah,
because spoil for anybody who hasn't read this yet. Plug your ears. Magneto drops him through one of the helicarrier's turbine engines. And just
dies.
He basically goes, I'm sorry, Sabretooth, you're too radical, you're too out of control, your healing factor, you're just too much of an unknown element. Picks him up and literally drops him in a blender. And the last thing you see of him is him going, just being, as you would imagine, just being shredded. That's it. So I was really, that part puzzled me. It's like, if we're being continuity snobs, where does this book land? It has to land after Axis, because this is after Axis.
Yeah.
Why is he's still got the big mane, he's still wearing his old costume with the big fur on it, and in the rest of the books that I've seen him in, he doesn't look, he's got his hair a nice ponytail or whatever, or combed back, and he doesn't look like a crazy person. So that was
I'm
the
not
one
even sure if they'll explain it. I don't know.
That was the one part that was odd, but still, really, as a whole, I tickled the pink by this run. It's been cool.
Yeah, very good.
It's been kind of a street level Magneto up until this issue, and then suddenly in this issue, he had all this other stuff in place that you didn't realize, and he's basically just pushing some buttons and making S.H.I.E.L.D. look like a bunch of chumps, basically. So.
Yeah.
Mike, did you pick up any Marvel books?
Picked up Captain America.
Ron?
And I don't know why I got off of it after the first issue. I went back through and I purchased all of them up to number 4, which is where it is currently. I got it because, of course, it has Armadillo and King Cobra tackling them. I love that cover. And then as you read through, it seemed like every issue was him just going nose to nose with as many villains as possible. It totally fit in that Marvel fanboy fight after fight after fight. And I loved it. I love that kind of stuff. And he's chasing after basically the Masters of Evil, all the old Captain America, Steve Rogers villains. And it was interesting. They're using Inhumans. They went to rescue a boy, and then they figure out that boy is not defenseless. He actually is an Inhuman who's working with Baron Zemo and all of them, and his blood is going to start sterilizing all the superheroes so that they can't have kids, and it's only going to be the bad guys who have kids. And I like that storyline, and then they continue to say, Hydra, you can't trust any of your groups. In the Avengers and the X-Men, there's Hydra in all of them. So I'm really going to be interested to see if that's going to be true or if they're overreacting. So I've just been enjoying it. I mean, I think storyline's great. I think the art is good in it. Like I said, it's Rick Remender, so I mean, it's just he's got it down for what Marvel wants, and Stuart Immonen is great on the pencils. And I think I've seen him in some of my other stuff like Secret Warriors, and I've just been enjoying it. I can't figure out why I jumped off of it. And I've always been happy. This is what I do want. I want Thor to pass his hammer on to a young lady. I want Captain America to pass his shield on to his partner. I like this. I think this is how it should be. We don't need Steve Rogers young forever, like you said. An old Steve Rogers book would be awesome, and continue Captain America that way.
Yeah, actual continuation of the universe, right?
Right. Yeah. Get some legacy characters in there. So the next generation of whoever it was, because that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
To carry on those mantles and whatnot. Yeah, cool. Yeah. I'm going to sidetrack just for a second. I flipped over to my question and answer thing, and Senior Mute Happy had put up a link. I can't actually see what the link technically says, but it looks like what it's saying is that Sundowners, Ghost Fleet, and Resurrectionists to become Dark Horse digital exclusives. So I don't know if that means that that's the only way you're going to be able to read those books. And if that's the case, I'm not going to be really happy, because that means I won't be able to read Sundowners anymore, because, of course, I don't read anything digitally. And I'm probably one of 3 people that read that book. But that's going to be a bummer if that's the case with those books. Do some of you guys read Resurrectionists? Damien, were you reading Resurrectionists?
Yeah, I read Resurrectionists. Is something happening with it?
Well, Senior Mute Happy on my Q&A part of Google Plus posted a link that I can't get the link to work out of that, so I'll have to check it out later. But basically the title of it is that Sundowners, Ghost Fleet, and Resurrectionists to become Dark Horse digital exclusives. So I don't know if that means that they're only going to be done digitally, or if they're going to make
them out in trade.
After the fact, come out in trade.
So this may be the beginning of what some people may be fearing, is that instead of newsstands, things will come out digitally, and then they'll come out in trades. I can't imagine they won't eventually come out in trades, though.
Well, that's cool. If they come out in trades, I guess my trade collection will suddenly start getting bigger. I mean, I like to buy things in singles for a number of reasons, but if I can't get them that way, I still want to read the story. And I don't really read those other ones. I know a lot of other people who read Ghost Fleet. Is a book that they all like a bunch. But I really like Sundowners, so to be collected in trade. He just added to it that's going to be collected in trade.
I think trades, for the foreseeable future, will always be kind of a nice profit center, because in this model that they have, they make enough money off of the trades become an extra source of income.
And they're great for new readers too, right?
Right, and there's the whole library market and all that kind of stuff.
I always wonder though how the artist gets paid out of that in digital sales, because the artist is the hardest person to make a living. The sense is that a writer can write multiple things to try and supplement his income, whereas clearly an artist can only do one book at a time.
I don't know about a Dark Horse, but DC about 6 months ago finally announced that they would be giving royalties going forward on digital.
To everybody too.
On digital sales. So for a while, people weren't getting royalties on digital, but I guess now they will be for anything they make now. Probably not what they made in the past.
Well, okay. Well,
one assumes Dark Horse is usually a cooler in treating creators.
Right.
They've done some pretty amazing things, like the people who created Nexus, if you remember that, they lost their rights to one of the companies that published it at one point. Dark Horse bought it and gave the rights back to those creators.
Yes, that's awesome.
So I just kind of assume that Dark Horse will do the right thing.
Yeah. So thank you, Senior Mute Happy. That's some interesting news that I had missed somewhere along the way. So I won't be quite so shocked when suddenly the book I'm buying in singles suddenly comes to an end. I won't be freaking out quite so bad.
And that could either be viewed positive or negative, even as a purchaser of physical comics. Because on one hand, it could be the beginning of a slide towards saying, well, we don't even need to put out the floppies anymore. Or it could be that these were things that would have been canceled anyway.
Right.
They can afford to put them out. So there could be the positive of more comics will come out because some of them will just come out digitally and you can buy them in trade later.
Right. And if that's the case, cool. I mean, because I think it's funny is that supposedly like Sundowners was a critically acclaimed book that, of course, because it's critically acclaimed, no one reads it. So
right. I think you and I were the only ones.
Yeah.
And were you reading Resurrectionists? I might be the only one reading that.
No, I don't know who else is still reading that. I mean, I know when the first issue came out, quite a few people picked it up, but after that, I didn't hear anybody else talk about it besides you.
And I can think of 2 people reading Ghost Fleet, which is Tom Ray and Mercy, I think.
Tom Ray, Mercy, T-Bird.
She's reading it too?
And Stacy Poole S. Those are the people I know that are reading it.
So you would, judging from our little circle, you would think that one could have stayed in print.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, unless, of course, that's the only 5 people that are reading it. So there you go. But so let's get back to Marvel. Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack. I just wanted to catch that because I know if I didn't, I would miss it after the fact. So, what other Marvel books? Damien, did you get to any of your Marvel books?
The only Marvel book that I get on the newsstand is Ms. Marvel.
Ms. Marvel and Loki.
This was kind of almost like a filler issue. It wasn't really a filler issue, but it felt a bit that way.
I thought it was very after-school especially. I didn't particularly like this one all that much.
Yeah, I can see why you would say it's after-school special. It kind of reminded me of like an issue of an early Spider-Man or Fantastic Four, one of the issues that no one remembers very well anymore, like a lesser issue.
So, just as a brief question, Michael, did you like the way the last issue ended?
Yes. I'm curious to see it. I'm more curious about what's going to go on in the future. The last arc was okay. I like the idea of the character, and I like the story as a whole. Mm-hmm. But
I said I didn't have a problem with this issue, but I noticed that all of us. Not all of us. It seems like I'm hearing more people. I don't know if we're being harder on the book or the honeymoon effect of the book is finally starting to wear off. That we're not all just going, oh my God, I love it, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, because last issue, I didn't care for the way it ended. I mean, I'm glad that the whole Inventor thing is over with. Yeah. But there were elements of that final story that, to me, felt after-school special. This one didn't feel after-school special to me. I actually like this one. Yes, it's kind of a filler issue in a way, but it's further establishing her relationship with the characters that are around her. So I liked it for that. I mean, we've kind of established a little more her friendship with Bruno. She's clearly sees Bruno as her friend and nothing beyond that. And I don't know that anything else will ever come of that because he kind of gets the impression that, gee, that nothing else is going to become of that, so maybe that may be the end of that whole story element kind of a thing.
See, to me it seemed more like, when Peter Parker wanted to date the secretary of J. Jonah Jameson and kept thinking she didn't like him, but finally she does. Like, I just feel like it's biding its time, so that this issue ultimately, it's more a clue that something else will happen between them, but it's going to take a long time for that to happen or something. That's how I read it.
I just thought it was a fun issue. I like Loki. I like this Loki. I mean, him being plopped down and just kind of, being Loki and messing with the things the way that he does and whatnot. And I love Camilla's response to the whole idea of getting a love letter, an anonymous love letter, and what do you do with that? And her whole the age that she is going, not even sure I know what love is for this whole, this whole thing. I don't know.
I liked it a lot better than last issue. I just am still left with a little bit of, as you said, the less confidence in this book than I had up to last issue.
Huh.
It didn't restore my confidence the way it might have. It was still fun, but maybe that's why I think of it as a filler. It didn't tell me whether I'm going to like this going forward or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, Yeah. Well, that's why I wonder. Are we just suddenly tired of what makes this comic what it is? Because I don't think that there's anything different in this that hasn't been in the last 6 or 7 issues.
I don't think it's that. I think it's just that that was a 11-issue story arc, pretty much, kind of, and it just dragged, right? We need something. I don't know. I feel like she needs to move on to something else, or like something bigger to happen. I don't know.
Right. So we kind of need a kick in the pants. We don't just need the status quo to continue at this point.
Yeah, because I love the character and I love the idea of it. The whole idea of it is great, but it just needs, I don't know, to be stepped up a bit.
However, when I say that, I saw online that she will be having an arc that's all about the Secret Wars and the after effects of that or something.
Right.
And I'm not looking forward to Jersey City being mashed into other universes or something.
Yeah, she's getting the end of days tag added to her title. G. Willow Wilson says that does not mean that it's the end of the character, just the end of the Marvel Universe as we know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of course all the Marvel creators are going to keep giving us that tagline.
Yeah.
A lot of the charm is the whole community around her, so I wouldn't want that to go away.
Right.
I assume she'll find some way to make it not go away. But.
Right. She needs her friends, right? She needs her friends around her. She needs her parents around her. Quite frankly, she needs Lockjaw around her to, kind of maintain the funness, the fresh-faced superhero that she started out as, right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a challenge because one of the things I think was charming about the book to start out with was her exploration of what it was to be a superhero and learning her powers and all that kind of stuff. Well, you can't keep doing that forever, right?
No.
So what's the next step? Are we ready for the next step? Is that what we're saying, that we need the next step or whatever that's going to be? So I don't
think so.
No. Next step is a costume change.
Yeah. Superhero boyfriend or girlfriend, and
yeah. Rooming up with Barbara, her and Batgirl.
Oh yeah, she'll move out and do a Three's Company thing or something.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see. I like the issue, but then it had 2 characters in it that I like a lot. So, but it'll be curious to see what's next. What's next? How long do they maintain what they've had going forward? I still think it's a great character, and I am still excited to see what's next. But I'm just curious that the tone that people have been talking about the book here the last little bit seems to have changed some. So we're all feeling something. I don't know what that is, but I think we're all feeling something.
I do wonder if Wilson is good at the superhero part of the story. She's great at the rest of the story, but I don't know, with the making a satisfying end to the arc, with the villain and everything. She hasn't proven that she can do that yet.
Mm-hmm. And everything of hers that I've really read has not been superhero oriented.
Right.
For my frame of reference to.
Yeah. Will you be getting her Avengers? Women, all women.
A-Force,
right?
I will be.
I'm gonna have to hear something about it. I don't know. As soon as you just throw a bunch of people together like that and then say we're gonna make some big story, and it doesn't matter that it's all women or not all women, it could be all guys.
Right.
I have a hard time. Inevitably I'll get issue 1. I'll get issue 1 with a lot of trepidation, just because it doesn't matter what the makeup is. Marvel or DC, if you suddenly grab that many people that they've listed off there and throw them all in a pot together, that's a hard story to write. How do you write that many characters?
Yeah.
I have a hard time with that. I mean, the 13-year-old, oh my God, look at all the superheroes on a page, just thinks that's freaking awesome. I mean, that's why I loved the original Secret Wars. Was to see that big, huge page of just every villain and every hero you could possibly think of all across the page. That's just awesome. But story-wise,
not really anymore.
Right. But story-wise, I don't know. Did anybody else read She-Hulk?
Yeah.
Final issue of She-Hulk of this run, Charles Soule. Who knows when we'll get another She-Hulk book?
Very sad.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I liked this issue. I thought it was a decent ending.
I think they could have used more time to like. It feels like there was a lot that they had to kind of tie up, and they didn't tie up everything.
Yeah, the reveal at the end of this as to what the whole blue folder was about and all of that was pretty simple at the end of the day, right? It was like, oh, this is what it is. Oh, okay, well, we're not going to stand for that, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Clearly they don't answer what the secretary is or the monkey.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. That was something I was super curious about.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think we'd ever get told who they are, though. I think that's kind of the gag to some degree of the character, is that she just always Angie. She just always knows this stuff. She's in the right place at the right time, and she has a monkey that grows to the size of the Hulk and knock people around. I don't know. I still like the ending though. The blue file was kind of cool. In a way, I'm a sucker for that kind of story though. The idea of the villain trying to rewrite history to make himself not the villain anymore.
That was interesting.
So, but it just seemed weird that, like I said, it just like they announced it and everybody went, "Oh, okay," and that was kind of the end of it. I thought the very end of the title was cute though. Their interaction, the fact that they've got another case, it is left open.
Yeah,
it's not like they didn't wreck her practice. She can still be this practicing lawyer. If somebody else in the Marvel Universe chooses to use, Jennifer Walters, she is in San Francisco. She does have a business. She does all this stuff. I mean, so someone else could take this and do something with it. But clearly it didn't sell well enough.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Because if it was selling well enough, I don't think that Charles Soule was not interested in writing it. He pitched 12 issues. They let him tell his 12 issues. It didn't swell well enough, so it's done.
Did you like the cameo at the end?
The cameo?
The Duck? Howard the Duck?
Oh, yeah, whatever. I don't know. I didn't care about that one way or the other because I don't care about Howard the Duck. I'm one of those guys.
Okay.
I have no interest in Howard the Duck. I'm sure he's lots of fun and whatnot. I don't know what his relevance is in the Marvel Universe proper with superheroes and stuff like that, so I don't know.
He's just kind of silly, yeah. I bet.
Yeah.
So did She-Hulk sell badly?
I think so. I don't know what the numbers are, but
because I kind of wondered if we'd see it rebooted pretty quickly, like we're seeing Hawkeye rebooted pretty quickly. But
it's possible. But the writer was someone who fit the book really well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but he's become a star, and they probably wanted to put him on major projects, like they have Wolverine.
But his answer to why is it being canceled, though, was this is the arc I pitched. I would clearly enjoy to keep writing it, but that isn't what we're going to do right now. Was kind of the thing. I got the impression that he danced he danced literally and politically around the idea that that Marvel didn't want him doing that anymore. And so you're saying, Damien, you think maybe Marvel said, we don't want to waste your talents on this book. We want you on these books because you're our exclusive now?
Right. I kind of see them using him as their go-to guy for things they really want to promote, like the Inhumans and the death of Wolverine and other things like that. Isn't he going to do a second Inhumans book?
Is he writing the second one also?
Or is someone else writing the second one?
Because there's the Inhumans and then there's the Uncanny Inhumans, right?
Right. Maybe he's not writing both of them. I'm just not sure.
I hate when they do that, though. They'll stick one of these creators on a book for like 6 issues, and then so everyone's on it, and then they'll just change the team to like the creative team to somebody you're not interested in, or I don't know.
In some cases, I don't know how much that's Marvel and how much that's the creators themselves. Like in the case of like Warren Ellis, they'll bring him in and go, "Hey, can you kickstart a book for us?" That's all they want him to do. And Warren will go, "Yeah, I'll write a 6-issue arc, and then I want to be done because I don't want to be protracted for a long time." They see him as a writer who can, get the gears going on a book, and then he's gone, kind of a thing.
Jason Aaron too, because he did Amazing X-Men at the beginning, right?
Yeah, briefly.
Yeah, and then
who took that over?
Oh, I can't remember now. I dropped it.
But generally, Jason Aaron stays on titles, but Warren Ellis does not.
Right, except for his own stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Any other Marvel books you want to talk about?
Loki?
Sure, right on. Oh, somebody else I could talk these books with. This is awesome.
I'm surprised Loki's still going.
It's really good.
I love this book, and every issue gets better.
Yeah, it really does. It's nice to see that this story. I think the storylines are really going to come to a head next issue. It's kind of a precursor to this issue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like was Verity, though. Like, I have a feeling that she's not going to be. I hope she's not gone from the book forever, but I have a feeling she might be.
You think so? And I'll say I don't think so, just because they chase her off. Verity, for the people who don't know, is a character who you can't lie to her. She can see lies. It does not matter, which of course makes her an interesting person to be teamed up with. She's basically was best friends with Loki. You know, she's the one person that is going to see through Loki's BS, right?
Yeah.
But they kind of talk about in this issue the fact she doesn't have any friends at all. So she's walking away right now saying, I can't handle this. But do you think that's really going to be the case? I think she's going to end up coming back. I think she's going to come back because I don't think she has any friends, and it was kind of nice having a friend. Yeah. So I have a sense that maybe she'll come back, unless the story gets really big. I guess if it gets really grandiose and all-powerful and that sort of thing, maybe not. But as long as they're hanging around in Manhattan, I think that there's a good chance that she's going to show back up. She'll show back up in it. Because I still think that her being able to see through lies is going to play to their advantage at some point or another.
Yeah, it did make the book really interesting with those two. Like, their conversations were always some of the most fun dialogue in the book, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Because you're thinking, okay, is he trying to find a way to lie without lying?
Exactly.
Telling her a story. And, of course, in this issue, she's so mad that, people are saying horrible stuff about our main Loki character from the book, but it's not as simple and black and white as they're stating it. But because they're stating it in this black and white way, it seems like they're telling the truth. And Loki, our main character Loki, never gets a chance to get in edgewise to say, look, it's not as simple as I ate so and so's soul, and so I'm the bad guy. What you don't understand, what he doesn't get a chance to say is King Loki from the future basically put me in a position I had no. I mean, I kind of got suckered into where I'm at now. You put a starving man in front of a piece of food and tell him he can't ever eat that, or he's going to be the most horrible person in the world. At some point, you're starving. Chances are you're going to break down and eat it, and that's kind of what he basically did. The whole part with the All-Mother, that was interesting. In this, he ends up in Asgard. Everybody disowns him. Though I can't remember what that group is called, the Asgardians. That's got all of Thor's buddies.
Oh.
Whatever they're called. That group is a group. They're called something. Mike, do you know what that is?
The Warriors 3. I mean,
right. The Warriors 3 basically disavow him. He does not. They decide they're not going to kill him because they're not going to get liars' blood on their hands.
Yeah.
But he now does not exist. They do not hear him. They basically disown him. So he wanders off to find his dad. Well, he ends up running into All-Mother instead. She passes pretty harsh judgment on him, but he throws some stones back at her to basically say, look, I did your dirty work for you because you hated Kid Loki. You wanted Kid Loki dead yourself. I basically helped you out by getting rid of Kid Loki for you, and now you're going to dump on me. And, of course, she does anyway. She exiles him. She literally sends him to exile.
And he travels forever and eventually does see his dad.
He runs into Odin. He runs into Allfather. Allfather gives him some interesting factoids before throwing him back to Manhattan. So now he's in Manhattan. He's stuck in Manhattan. He's got old man King Loki there with him, making his life complete and utter living hell because old man Loki's now dancing around because he just knows he has this whole thing set up to where his future is going to come to pass. Loki, who kills everything, is going to come to pass.
Yeah.
And I love the way they write old man Loki, King Loki too. He's just diabolical, evil.
So much fun.
And the way they draw him, they just draw him as this extra, the old the big long curl horns from the old days of the Kirby style, Loki with those big curly horns and whatnot. Just
and the smile on his face on that last page. It's this creepy oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I enjoy the aspect. The biggest thing about this book that surprises me, I really enjoy the aspect of Loki trying to rehabilitate himself, working so hard to try and change the stories because he is made of stories. So the stories will make him out to be the lovable trickster god as opposed to the evil maniacal god. And he's got all these forces working against him. The All-Mother is working against him, which he's kind of lost right there. And this future Loki is playing the All-Mother so he can end up being the king Loki that's so evil and whatnot. Yeah. I know I say this every time I talk about this book. The book is way smarter than I thought it was going to be. I really thought it was going to be kind of a fan service kind of a book based off of the movies.
Yeah.
No,
it's just a good story.
Ewing is just writing just a couple and this is another book. I don't know what happens to it. You know what I mean? Because it's getting the End of Days title added to it too. Which, did you think this book with the Axis stuff? Do you think it threw the storyline of this book off?
No, I thought that
it did Magneto.
No, not at all. This one stayed on point a little more, and I felt like that way anyway. But
well, right, because partially because the whole Axis thing was a flipping of alignments from good to evil, and he's kind of been trying to do that anyway. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it added a cool element to it. I like that.
Yeah. So
that
we'll see.
Happens.
Yeah, we'll see how it does going through the this one too. I'm hoping these books all see life out the other side of it, because almost every Marvel book that I'm getting has that End of Days thing tacked onto it. So my amount of books I'm reading from Marvel may radically change coming out the other side of Secret Wars. I don't know. So.
Did anybody else read this?
Silver Surfer, which is another book that's getting the End of Days tacked onto it. I have not been reading the Allred book. Yeah.
I think I love Michael Allred's art, so I'll just pick up anything he puts out anyway. But the story's been really, really good. I like the idea that he has he's got Dawn with him to go surf through the galaxies or whatever. But at the moment, they're actually dealing with Galactus, which is always fun with Silver Surfer. It makes for interesting stories. And they're dealing with a planet full of, a hidden planet almost, full of all these aliens from all these worlds that Galactus has eaten. And Silver Surfer kind of brings Galactus there, and they're trying to deal with that issue. I think it's been really interesting, and it kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat reading it that way. I don't know. I don't know when reading it, so... Yeah.
So, Damien, you must be muted, because I cannot hear you.
Oh, I muted myself while I was eating. Sorry.
No, it's okay. What were we saying?
I was saying I haven't read that issue yet, but I have read up to that issue, and we'll be getting that issue soon. And I like the way they've been dealing with the idea of the Silver Surfer's guilt for all the planets he helped to destroy. I don't know if I've seen that before in my limited Silver Surfer reading. But they mix that with a lot of humor, so it's not too heavy, but it's there as an undercurrent, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a really good book.
I'm intrigued by the idea if there's a planet someplace that is a gathering of the people who survived the planets that he's eaten. That's really curious.
Yeah, it's actually pretty fun to read too, and then to see Dawn his companion go against him, right? And be kind of scared of him at this point too, right? Because she had no idea that he was a herald for Galactus the whole time. So yeah, so it's neat to see their dialogue between each other, and then how scared she is of this guy who she loved for so long, as a traveling companion.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, they were clearly starting to fall in love with each other, and
yeah, it's been fun.
Sounds like it.
Hopefully it won't get ruined too much by the Secret Wars also.
Yeah.
Any Marvel book that I am currently following, I just kind of dreading the Secret Wars on.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. And I read mainly Marvel, so.
Then that's rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
independent, but.
Even if the Secret Wars itself might be good, because I think it is the right thing for Jonathan Hickman, but
Yeah.
I might like to read it in trade someday, but I just don't like what it may do to everybody.
Right, what it sounds like it's going to be coming out the other side of it. What does that do to our individual books coming out the other side of it? That's I think the biggest concern a lot of us have, right?
Yeah, it's the unknown too, right? That's the worst part.
Yeah.
I wish they would just tell us, these books will be cool in the end. And
yeah, and it's not, and that's the problem is, right? It's the unknown, but it's not the unknown in, ooh, this is exciting, what's coming next? It's, for some reason, almost universally, except for the people who are really trying hard to be Pollyanna about it, it's almost universally, oh God, what is it going to be out the other side?
Yeah.
That's...
Right. Well, other events are bad enough, but this one affects the entire universe rather than just some subset of the books. So it just,
well, and they keep drilling home.
So they say.
And they keep drilling home. The universe as you know it is done.
Yeah.
Not. Ooh, there's going to be awesome stuff come out the other side. The universe as you know it is going to be. To me, that's threatening. I don't know how that's not threatening.
I'm so nervous right now.
If I wake up tomorrow and you tell me when I go to bed the next day, tomorrow everything I know is going to be gone and it's going to be something different, I like change, but that's hardcore. You know what I mean? So, I don't know.
If it turns out that badly, I might just drop all my Marvel and only read back issues.
No.
I don't know.
Well,
if it's that
you're
bad.
going to wait. You're going to wait and see, though, right?
I'm going to put my money down for a while.
Okay.
I'll give it a couple months and see what happens then.
Because the whole thing sounds scary to me, and clearly I'm more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan, and the whole New 52 thing was very frightening too.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna say it's done and I hate it before you see what it is. That to me that's
I wouldn't
that's
do
a little
that.
Yeah, that's a little too crazy. Because it could
I'm sure, like anything, good books will come out of it.
Yep.
It's just what will happen to all the good books now.
Right.
It doesn't feel like Marvel needs rebooting in the sense of they have so many good books at the moment.
Yeah.
Any other Marvel books you want to talk about?
I just had one more.
Okay.
Silk #1.
Oh, how was that?
It was pretty good. I like the character. She's fun because she's young, so she's kind of going off the cuff all the time. She's very naive in everything that she does, and she doesn't think things out. And I think that's going to be interesting with this character. It'll be like a young Peter Parker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though she's older.
So I know nothing about Silk. Where does Silk come from? I mean, how is Silk? I mean,
she's from Spider-Verse. That's where she's kind of spinning out of that. But she was bit by the exact same spider as Peter Parker.
Oh, okay.
Just that she got locked up in this building for however many years, however old they are.
Okay.
And then Spider-Verse comes, and she got unlocked from the building and helped them with Spider-Verse, blah, blah, blah. And she was...
Okay,
yeah.
that helps me out to get an idea where the heck she has her power from. Okay.
The art is... it's a little cartoony, but I like that. Obviously, I like Allred's art, so I like that kind of style. I know it's a little childish looking, but I think it suits the book because of the character.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, she does seem very naive, and she's still getting used to her powers in the book, and there's parts where she's, her strength is kind of overpowering, and she's afraid that she's killed one of the bad guys and things like that, and she obviously doesn't want to do that. I don't know, and trying to deal with a love life, I think they already kind of started bringing that up too, and I've always liked coming of age stories in general, in novels even too, and I don't know, I always like that kind of thing, so I think I'll like this book for a long time.
Cool. That's one of those books I'm really curious to see what happens with it because of what we know is coming. We know the whole Secret Wars thing's coming. I mean, it's such a new book. How is it affected?
One of the Battle World map spots was Spider-Verse, right? So I'm sure, I don't know how it'll work out, but I'm sure they'll just have to continue in with her in with that part of it, right? With that world, and I don't know.
Michael, how did you like Spider-Verse?
I liked it a lot. I just finished reading it before it came on. I had saved up probably 6 or 7 of the books to kind of read in a big chunk, and it was really good. The ending, I wasn't unhappy with it. I thought it was really good. It was fun the whole time, and seeing these characters that some of them we haven't seen for a very long time, like Ben Reilly, people like that, right? And I like that. So, and seeing the way that he, transforms into this huge spider creature, that was fun too. And yeah, all the little jokes and everything. Did anybody else?
Yeah, I did, and I was wondering, did you like it that they left it fairly open at the end, that they didn't wrap up everything?
I did. I like the whole Jessica Jones in 001 and doing all that, taking care of that they could even continue with that part of the storyline too. And yeah, I like the fact that they left it open. I'm sure they're doing that for Secret Wars so that they can do their Spider-Verse book through that, right, and tell that part of the story.
All right.
That's what I think, anyway.
All right, great.
Okay, any other Marvel books you want to talk about? I'm just kind of looking over comments now so I can be out in front on.
No, that's all I had.
Okay. Anything going on Marvel news-wise? I mean, other than, of course, we have one of the things I know was news was the whole End of Days getting added to all of these books, a large chunk of these books in here and whatnot. Clearly, I don't work for Marvel, so I don't know the real answer. I've had people ask me, does this mean these books are all getting canceled because of that? Because, of course, that's how there's some gossip sites that's how they've been kind of pitching this whole this news. And from what I understand from a few creators that have commented, that it's not the end of those characters. Those characters aren't being killed. They are going to have something going on forward with them. After the thing, after this is over with, that's the moniker that's being added to it as they go into the Secret Wars. So, we're going to have a Ms. Marvel come out the other side of it. I can't confirm that there's going to be a Magneto or a Ms. Marvel or a Silver Surfer. I'm assuming some of those books are coming out the other side of that.
Just different.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we may get, like I said, it may be a new #1. So if you're offended or bothered by that, you're going to be upset. But I'd be shocked if most of these books don't come out the other side of Secret Wars as #1s again. But I could be wrong. But it just seems to be kind of how Marvel operates, right? So
that's true, yeah.
Well, the rebooting to #1 all the time used to bother me like a few years ago, but now I've gotten so used to it, I'm surprised when it doesn't happen, like when Batgirl didn't reboot to #1 or something. I kind of expect that as a sign that we're getting new creators or a new creative direction.
Right.
It's good for new readers, which is good, and that's what we want, right? Is to have more people reading the books. So
yeah, it's a proven business fact that #1 sell more issues than anything else does, and then it's downhill from there. And it doesn't seem to matter how often. You can go 5 issues and then start over with the #1, and the #1 will get an uptick from issue, from issue 5 every single time. It'll get another big jump back up like the original #1. So I can't imagine that we're not going to keep
jump on point, I guess.
Right.
It's not just
because there are lots and lots of people who will say, I'm afraid to jump onto whatever comic because it's 20, 30 issues in, let alone a Fantastic Four run or a Action Comics or a Amazing Spider-Man, where they're in the 600 range, that's like people just don't want to try and deal with that instead of just figuring out where the next arc is and going forward, kind of a thing.
It is rude that they put the $4.99 price tag on it though for every #1.
That really
sucks.
Bad.
That's a Marvel thing that I really wish they would not do.
Me too. They should do it $1 less. Like they'd sell more, I think.
Right. Especially with the crappy covers that they continue to put on the things.
Yeah.
And I will continue to complain about that because going back over my comics from last year, I was amazed at how many of my Marvel comics have big thumbprints on them places because the covers are deteriorating because of the cover stock based on that. So I am just kind of looking over comments. Christina says that she's probably going to ruin her issue number 12 of She-Hulk as she cries into it, as she reads it, which I could definitely definitely relate there. It's a bummer that book is going. It really definitely grew on me. And let's see here. I'm trying to see if there's any other Marvel conversation stuff. Sorry for the dead space. That's why I have problems looking over comments. So people are commenting on the fact, like Kayla is commenting on the fact that she'll probably pick up A-Force because G. Willow Wilson's attached to it.
I'm picking it up for the same reason too.
I do think that that's one of the smarter things for them to do if they're going to do that kind of book is to put her on that, because she is kind of becoming a fan favorite, I think, because of the success of Ms. Marvel, right?
I'd like to see them put her on a book that's not labeled all female. I mean, you could do a regular Avengers and still focus a little more on the female characters or whatever, because God knows we've focused on the male characters in a co-ed situations.
Right.
So
For sure.
I'm a little. I think I'll probably read it digitally because I want to save money. But
well, I certainly think that she's skilled enough that she doesn't need to be end up becoming a niche writer where she just does this. She
definitely
wrote
a writer I want to follow.
She wrote a one-issue Aquaman Metamorpho comic back right before Batman died and Dick Grayson took over, and I enjoyed that. That was just a one-shot kind of an issue, kind of a thing that was pretty fun.
That was pre-New 52?
Yes. Yeah, that was way pre-52. It was probably
2011.
I want to say like 2011. They were
trapped in the desert.
Yes, what they were doing was they were rebooting the Outsiders, and Batman was trying to pick a team to be the new Outsiders. So they teamed up what was at the time an outsider character with somebody who clearly wasn't. So it was Aquaman and Metamorpho. There was one that was like Wonder Woman and Grace Cho, who's a different tribe of Amazons. There was, I think, like Thunder and Martian Manhunter. But anyway, it was Dick Grayson as Nightwing and Captain Boomerang, I think. It was kind of an interesting mix of different stuff in there. And they were just kind of one-shots, kind of telling a story to pick the new team kind of a thing. So, yeah, they were out in the desert.
Good, yeah. I was in my Metamorpho phase where I collected 3 or 4 of those, and that was one I really did enjoy.
Yeah, yeah. Kayla also mentioned the fact that, yes, the next up for Marvel rebooting so they can get all those #1s at the higher price tag. I mean, she mentioned that, too, that was, on top of that, as far as that seems to be a trend for Marvel, which, quite frankly, shies me away from trying a new #1 for characters I don't know, or I'm not sure I'm that interested. It definitely sucks the curiosity right out of me. So I agree with you. Selling it for $2.99 would be the smarter thing to do, right?
So yeah, you'd get more people buying it.
Yeah. And then swapping it over instead of canceling the $2.99 book and then slapping us in the face of restarting it at $1 more. And it'd be the same. And it'd be the same book. Yeah.
Daredevil. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go on to the DC. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we want to talk about DC wise? Damien, did you get any DC books read?
I only got to read 2 DC books so far. I guess. Yeah. So I read 2 Batman books so far.
Okay, Batman Eternal.
Which great cover, and that's pretty much where it stops. It wasn't horrible, but it just felt like more kind of dragging out a story just to drag it out because they're not ready to tell us what's really going on.
Right. Well, let's see. Who else in the Rogues Gallery can we throw out and have them in 2 issues say, "Oh, it wasn't me. I'm not it."
Right. And Batman said basically, "Oh, you weren't It wasn't you? Okay, bye. I gotta go.
He gets there. He's all like amped up. He's all
everybody
pissed
around
off. He's all pissed off. He's roid raging basically at the fact that it's got to be Roz, and Roz's like, no, it can't be me. I'm all busted up laying in this bed. It wasn't me. Oh yeah, you're right. I'm just tired. You're right. It's not you. That was silly.
Right.
Man, I wonder who it could be.
We'll fight our epic battle some other day.
Right,
Bye-bye.
and Raj, being the perfect father figure he is, basically verbally taps Batman on the shoulder and goes, "It's okay, champ. You can do it. You'll be the great detective. You'll figure it out, and it'll be all okay. You'll be the mighty person. And someday, when you're in your prime of prime, we'll have our battle."
Yeah.
And of course, they throw the title out in this issue. They give us the Batman Eternal because they show us Batmans from the future. All these Batmans.
But it was
from
all
the
a
futures.
hallucination.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you find that this book is worth it to read it? Like,
If you're not already on it, don't get on it.
No.
no, I'm not
Don't
saying
pick
jump
it
on
up
it, but
in
like
trade.
in trade.
No.
Would it be
No.
good in trade?
No, it would be bad in trade, in my opinion.
It's that bad. Okay.
It would be worse in trade than as
Yeah.
a weekly comic.
Yeah, because as a weekly comic, you're getting it fast enough that there's a lot of stuff you just turn a blind eye to, I think, as you're reading it, because you're just more going for the ride, because every week, by the time you've digested it, you get the
Right.
next one. Whereas
Yeah.
if you're reading it in trade, visually, first and foremost, visually, it would be so schizophrenic.
Yeah, it's different creators, right?
Right. Almost every issue is, and some issues have multiple people within that issue. I believe this is one of those that's that way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I
And they
couldn't
don't
handle that.
always pick artists. I mean, it's not like consistent art styles, so the art styles have been all over the place.
Right. It's got three people credited with art, and one artist is doing pages 2 through 6, 9 through 14. Another artist is doing page 1, page 7, page 8, page 17 and 20. Another artist is doing page 15 and 16, and then the coloring is even split up amongst a bunch of people. Lots of times, if you get like different pencilists or different inkers, sometimes a colorist can at least pull it all together by using the same palette universally throughout that. When you start getting into different colorists too, then it really starts to get hard for it to be consistent through the 20 pages that are here, let alone, like I said, if you're reading it in trade, where it's a lot. Now, there have been successful weekly comics. I mean, I think that the other weekly book that Damian reads, it sounds like it's been going along very well.
It's awesome so far.
Back in the day, the comic book 52, it felt consistent all the way along because they didn't swap creators around unless they were on particular characters. So if visually it changed, at least it changed because you knew you were on the Question, or it visually changed because you knew you were on Booster Gold. Whereas
and they did
here,
the origin at the end of each issue too,
right?
Yeah.
Right, and this one visually, those clues don't exist. It's not like one person's doing something there. And I understand you got to get more than one artist on a book when it's weekly, because that's a lot of pages to be cranking out. I get that, but it's very schizophrenic there, and the storytelling, quite frankly, on this is extremely schizophrenic too. It's not like it gives you a healthy chunk of any one thing before it moves on to the next thing. It just kind of bounces around depending on which writer is the focused writer of it. And instead of them writing as a team, one person is writing the script for the day, and everybody else is quote-unquote consultants, and I don't know how much they're really consulted. Whereas other books that are out there, I think like the other book that Damian's reading, which is, what's it called?
Future's End.
Future's End, I think as a conglomerate, they are writing it kind of together. They all seem to be on the same page at all the same time.
And some of them write different characters and stuff, but they are all involved, and it feels very seamless, and all the artists involved have a similar style, and they keep recurring. Every 4 weeks you get the same artist back.
Right. They have a team. The team's
So
big.
They have a team, and they have a lot of experienced writers. I think the Batman Eternal writers are less experienced, especially at big projects like this.
Yeah, and they have Morrison, right, overlooking the whole thing, isn't it?
Scott Snyder's overlooking Batman Eternal.
No, the other one. Future
The other
Zone.
one I don't know who's. They don't like ever let you know who's in charge, but it's Brian Azzarello,
The
and
editor.
Jeff Lemire, and Jurgens, and Geffen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And those guys, a number of those guys have been on these kinds of projects before. Whereas
Right.
I don't, the guys that are on Batman, some of them have written a lot of stuff, but they have not done projects that have them tied up like this kind of a thing. So, I don't know.
It
I'm
doesn't
not-
read like they're all equal partners in it or anything. Like some people
Right.
are clearly just mailing it in.
Yeah, it's and I'm sure there's also a combination of I'm just losing patience, so therefore that part of the story is getting old. But the same elements seem to be happening now every couple issues. It's the same elements, like I said. What rogue can we throw out for a couple issues to then deny that it's not them and move on to whatever the hell else it's going to be? So.
The
There's
other
only
thing
6
is in
issues
all
left,
the
so-
rest of the Bat books, it's now clear that what happens in Batman Eternal isn't very important because they just skip right over it.
Yeah.
So there's not much reason to read it unless you've already been reading it, and you just might as well get to the end.
Right, because we're looking at what? Is there 50 issues, I think, or 52, whatever it is? We're on 46.
My
At
impression
this-
is 52, but I don't know if they've said for
Yeah,
sure.
at this point, I'm gonna, pick the rest of them up because it just seems silly not to, just so I can finish it out and determine whether or not how irritated I want to be by the whole thing when it's all said and done. But it was fun for a lot of issues. Like I said, it may just be fatigue is finally setting in on the whole thing. They kind of ran out of steam as far as giving us something intriguing to do. But the first half of this thing was fun.
Right.
But I still can't imagine reading it in trade, though.
So maybe if it had been condensed to 35 issues or something, and they just, dropped some of the plot threads that they've just thrown in for the heck of it.
Right. Like going back and touching base on Batwing's stuff and whatnot. Who cares? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Batwing fan. I like that character. I like the
Right.
previous one better than this one. But even I don't care.
Yeah. On the other hand, I cared a lot about Batman and Robin.
Yes.
The other Bat book.
With an awesome cover, this
Yeah.
homage to Action Comics as he's picking the Batmobile up and slamming it. But
I had to dig through all the Harley Quinn ones though to find this very last one.
Ooh.
because all the Harley Quinn variants that are out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
So what-
stuck the Harley Quinn variant in my pull, and I'm glad that I noticed that. And
So what are we thinking?
bittersweet because I can sense Tomasi's aiming towards kind of a little moment of a happy ending for them, maybe.
Mhm.
Is next issue the last issue, or is there one more after that?
Next month is March. We're done, right?
Yeah.
Because isn't it April and May is when the Convergence starts, right?
So I think I viewed this as Batman is shifting his thinking and he's accepting Robin as a superpowered person, at least for the moment,
Right.
and is bringing him into the Justice League and all of that.
Right.
Probably because he thinks that this power won't last, and he just wants to give Robin a good time while it does.
You
And-
think that's what it is?
Well, maybe that's because I'm suspecting the power won't last with the clues about him, not feeling the pain that his body is actually receiving and that kind of stuff.
Or I liked his interaction with both Superman and Shazam to show that even though you have these superpowers, you're still a child. Because with Superman, it shows him, even if you think you got these powers, here is a man. And then Shazam, it was the boy. This is the boy who has the powers just like you.
Yeah, I loved his interaction with Shazam.
Yeah.
Because clearly in a lot of ways, Damian is way mature past his chronological age. Not only because he has now literally died and come back to life, but that just his whole life experience is so much different than even Billy, this version of Billy has had a hard life. I mean, he's had a crappy life himself too, but just does not compare to the raised as an assassin, sort of a thing. And so that interaction is just like, I don't know, I thought it was really funny. His just kind of that Billy doesn't get that he's being kind of incredulous towards him. It's like,
Yeah.
Whatever. You're just, but another thing I really like about this is, and I like the way Tomasi has been writing it, the adults that are friends with Bruce, that are friends with Batman, how respectful they really are of Robin, and there's no reason for them to be. Aquaman was extremely respectful of him, not only because he managed to swim all the way down there, but just because he was. Superman could easily have kind of blown him off. It's just, well, for some reason he decided to bring the kid along, give him a thrill to be on the satellite and just leave it at that. But he actually listens to him, shakes his hand. I don't know. I really kind of was tickled by that too. The fact that these friends of Bruce, friends of Batman, they aren't just like colleagues. They're his friends. They're being extremely respectful to Bruce's kid. I don't know. I like that aspect of it too. Yeah, I don't know. Until Damien said that, I wasn't thinking this as being that kind of a swan song. I was thinking more of it along the lines of is that Bruce was also accepting the fact that, look, he isn't just simply my son who hangs out with me when I go out and do this stuff. He, with this power and stuff, he needs to come along. He needs to be part of all of this because it's there, and he's going to do it, so let's do it in a responsible fashion as opposed to an irresponsible fashion.
Well, and there's definitely that in it either way. But my reading was just that Bruce thinks his power will go away. But I don't know why I thought that.
Well, he does keep saying, look, you can't rely on your power. I mean, I think, in my head, I'm thinking his power is going to go away too. They aren't going to have Robin basically being the equivalent of Superman or some degree of that for forever, right? It's gonna
go away eventually, but whether right away or take
right, or are we gonna get that story going forward in his own book that we know is coming after the Convergence? Is that what that story is going to be? I don't want to see the book go, but I am really curious to see how it ends. How in what fashion do they tie this up? In what fashion do they pull on our strings, those of us who are really enjoying the father-son relationship of the book? How are they going to pull our strings on that as far as the emotional strings on that? Is this book going to just simply ride off into the sunset? Is it not going to end? I mean, it's going to end, but it's not going to have an ending, because I can't understand why they would suddenly write it in some way that they've separated from each other.
Right.
They're going to have to come up with something for me to justify, when Robin starts his own book, Son of Batman, for Batman to never be around. Why is that? Why have we suddenly gone from they're there every night to not? I mean, granted, I know they're not because clearly I read Batman. He's never in the Batman book. We read, Detective Comics. He's never in the Detective Comics book, so clearly that's
right.
I don't know. Really enjoying it, but I try not to think about the fact that we've only got like one issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it will be interesting to see whether how many plot threads are left at the end of next issue to be continued by Patrick Gleason by himself in the next iteration.
Mm-hmm. Is Convergence going to change everything for DC?
No.
No?
Not really, no. But they're just rebooting a lot of...
Okay.
Rebooting, I don't think is the right word to use. They're starting
doing a lot of number ones.
Right, they're starting a whole bunch of new books. They're ending. Some books are ending. They're not going on with them any farther, and a bunch of new books. About half the DC books are ending, and new books are starting up their place. 24 new books are starting up after the Convergence is over with. So
I watched Brendan's video about it.
Yeah.
But the universe is intact.
Right. It's not like they're starting everything over again. They're just opening it up to a whole bunch of new stuff.
The continuity of it so that more can be said.
Yeah. And we'll see what that really means. I mean, what they say in quotes and what's on paper versus what literally we get coming out the other side, that will remain to be seen. But no, it's not like after Flashpoint and the New 52. It's not like they're starting everything over from scratch again. They're just having this thing to fill in some time and then bunch of new stuff coming out the other side of it. So
it will be interesting to see if they can change their ways, because they're saying story trumps continuity. If they really can do that, I mean, they're already doing it in a few things like Batgirl and Harley Quinn, but
yeah. Yes. So, Mike, what'd you pick up?
The only other.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Go ahead. Sorry.
All right. The only other thing I did get was the Mastermen.
With the awesome Hitler on the toilet page.
Yes. Yep. I picked it up because I'd read a couple different things with Uncle Sam, so I kind of wanted to read it for that reason. And I am getting suckered into, it's a one-shot, and that's what's nice about it too. So.
Have you read all the other multiversities?
No, originally I was not, because I was thinking that they all kind of were going to tie together, and it was going to be this long series. So I didn't really pick up until I grabbed the Shazam because I love Shazam, and I picked up the guidebook thinking that was the end. I didn't realize this is the middle, and there's too many of them now that are just too good of storylines not to read. But
yeah.
First page. Ah!
It seems particularly weird having Jim Lee draw that.
And he's reading the Superman, the 10-cent Superman of Superman punching out Adolf Hitler is what he's reading.
That's funny.
He's having his moment.
The only thing about that is I know I was seeing on Twitter a lot of people were talking about how deep some of the points of the book could be, but I was wondering then, after you see that it's Superman, very first page, and then they introduce that it's a child in the spaceship, it's the American Crusader comic book. And I don't understand if that's supposed to mean something.
Like Captain America?
Yeah, it does look like Captain America, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And he did that in his first issue, right? That's the cover of the first issue.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to figure out. Is it supposed to be the same book? Is there supposed to be?
No.
All right.
I just think it's another one. It's just another one of those books. It's Morrison
playing around.
Playing around. Yeah.
All right.
So I won't talk tons about it because Damien hasn't read it yet, but clearly we get this version where
you can say whatever you want. I'm not going to be worried about it.
Superman as a child lands in Nazi Germany as opposed to in Kansas, and all the ramifications that have to go along with that. So you got the Uberman, literally, the superior race basically shows up, and we basically get the world ran by Nazi Germany. They take over the United States, and the world basically. You got hundreds of years of a utopia, German, a utopia, unless of course you're one of the downtrodden people who aren't of German nationality. Clearly, you're less than. And so it has this whole German bent Justice League. So you get all these characters that are based off of the Justice League, but of course have a German bent to them, and then you have the terrorists, quote unquote terrorists, which is Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters, taking down or potentially taking down the Third Reich. And there's lots of little things. You take time to look at the pages. There's lots of little great stuff, in the pages as far as little Easter eggs, and that sort of thing. I mean, even to the point where they even have a moment where he's holding Supergirl, except that of course it's Ubergirl, which of course is classic right out of the Crisis and stuff like that. So.
But it's interesting then, also I was trying to figure out, because there's a female Flash, but there's a male Flash in that dream, and Wonder Woman looked different. I didn't know if that's just supposed to be a homage to, the Infinity Crisis or what.
It is.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Because it's just a dream, so the parts of it aren't exactly accurate as far as what the reality is. There's some good stuff in this. I enjoyed it. It didn't rock my socks off like some of the other issues have, but it had lots of fun stuff. Like I said, I mean, it's got
Batman almost getting his brains blown out.
yeah, that was fun. But like it's got like I said, the Freedom Fighters. The Doll Man is in this, but Doll Man and Doll Woman are Jehovah Witnesses, which I thought was kind of fun. Just because of course they're yet another segment of the population that the Nazis worked really hard to try and get rid of. So that was kind of a kind of cool in there. And the Freedom Fighters are a larger mix of that sort of stuff. Like I said, I liked it. It was a fun issue. It didn't feel as heavy or as wow as the last couple issues of the multiverse have been. It was still fun. I would love to read a Freedom Fighters comic book by the time it was over.
And I'm also just interested, the person who brings the Freedom Fighters together, I see as just evidently a character that Morrison must really enjoy. That he's putting him in all these comics.
Yeah, Dr.
Sylvius?
Sylvius has kind of become, about halfway through this thing, it's become apparent that him and all of his multiverse versions of himself have teamed up together to control the multiverse. That's what their whole plan is. So they're becoming more and more present in each one of the books as being the mastermind behind the behind it all. So.
All right. Yeah.
I wonder how, in that very first multiversity book, there was the evil gentry who were destroying the multiverses.
Right.
I wonder how he's going to tie all that together.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious because, of course, the next issue is the one that we're warned at the front. Don't read this book because it'll be the end of everybody if you read the book. That's how it's pitched.
Right.
Don't read this book because there's a monster at the end of it. The old Sesame Street Grover book. So it'll be that, and then of course, then there is Multiversity number 2, which I'm assuming takes us back to those original characters, and somehow ends this thing in some sense to then supposedly now tie into the whole Convergence thing. So next month we'll get 2 issues. We'll get another one of these, which is the don't read this book because it's the end of the universe. Plus we'll get the Multiversity 2.
Well, that's interesting to have it all wrap up all of a sudden.
I've really been liking those. I think Morrison has been writing some great stuff, showing his diversity and flexibility to write all these different styles and different, kind of homages to some degree to all these different things, but somehow get his own story being told inside of that. For this potentially being the last DC work really that Grant Morrison does, it's a pretty awesome thing to be going out on, I think.
Do you think is it supposed to be the last?
He said
he's going to do a Wonder Woman Earth 1, I think.
That's in the can.
Oh, it's in the can. Okay.
I think that's pretty much done. It's just a matter of them getting it finished, printed up, and whatnot.
Right, or maybe the artist finishing it.
Well, last I heard, I thought he was basically almost done with it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so my understanding was this is pretty much the last work he's going to do. Not to say he's never going to do anything for them ever again,
right.
But he's not going to be doing any consistent work. He's got his own thing going, and this was that last thing that he's been kind of signed up to do for a lot of years. Because we've been talking about this Multiversity book for, 3 or 4 years at the least, or more years that they've been talking about the book. So it's been fun.
Well, my theory that Jim Lee is the one who drove him away can't be true if Jim Lee's drawing one of these issues, I suppose.
Well,
I've made Jim Lee into my boogeyman of everything I don't like about DC. I blame on Jim.
Yeah.
Everyone else blames Dan DiDio, but I blame Jim Lee.
I think it's all 3 of them.
Well, obviously it could be all 3 of them.
It's all 3 of them. Each have their own hand in messing with a part of it. It feels like, in some sense or another. But yeah. Any other DC books?
Not that I've read.
It's a horrible one that came out.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It hasn't been very good since the change. of creators, and since she's been going to Crucible, I don't think, and I think that this story specifically in this one, it was like a trope that's been done over and over again, like the bad guy telling her exactly what his plan's going to be, and her sitting there waiting to, find out what's going to happen and eventually get away, right? Like, we've seen it a million times. It's kind of boring, and I know that they only had, they have 1 or 2 more issues or something left?
1. Yeah.
Yeah, 1. So
Next
obviously
month.
they didn't really get much of a chance to tell a good story, but
I think this new team knew they were canceled when they came in, and they have hardly tried. Because I haven't read it yet, but I've been following the Crucible storyline.
Yeah. Was it you that said? I think it was your video where you said that they were setting up for Superboy, maybe.
I think someone else said that. It made
Was it
sense, but
Yeah. I don't know.
yeah.
So yeah, because this is done. When coming out the other side of Convergence, there is no Supergirl book.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about this issue, but in other issues, they literally had the bad guy go ha 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 ha.
Right.
It was just on that level of we're just doing any comic book cliche we can think of, we'll throw in here.
Yeah, it was really bad.
And I'm sure the creators knew the book was canceled when they got on it. It seems that DC actually does a lot of that. They'll put some new person that they don't really know what to do with, somebody who wants to get a shot at doing a DC book, and they give them these books that are basically done and just see what they can do with it, I guess. So
Yeah.
Well, it's too bad that she and Mike Johnston didn't try harder.
Yeah.
Because they didn't prove that they should be writing more comics by this time.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Oh well.
Yeah, it's too bad. I collected quite a bit of Supergirl, but it kept falling into the same routine over and over again, and I got frustrated with it. And it doesn't sound like that much has changed a whole lot with it.
Yeah, I had hopes with the Crucible thing that it was like Gotham Academy or whatever, and they were going to give the creators freedom and do something interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too. I got excited, and then I can't drop it though because I've been collecting it since #1. So.
I assume it's got to come back in 6 months or something when the TV show comes out.
Yeah, probably.
But in what shape or form? Who knows?
Right. That would be my guess too. We're going to see some
form of it. Yeah.
Some form of it. It may be completely different. They may radically change her again. Who knows? Move her closer to the TV show if the TV show is successful or.
Right. And with the TV show reminding everybody, I used to like Supergirl when I was a girl. You can have a lot of people coming in looking for it. If it were any good, it would be a good opportunity to gain new readers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did read Batgirl. I won't talk tons about it because, of course, it has some pretty heavy, shocking spoilers at the end of it that you have to kind of dodge the internet right now if you don't want to know what those things are, because there was quite a bit of talk about that. Curiously, the people who aren't actually reading Batgirl are throwing fits about what's at the end of it. The people who are actually reading Batgirl are going, wow, that's kind of cool and exciting. I wonder what that's going to be. Like I said, Damien hasn't read it yet. Are you reading this, Damien?
I am following a pattern of picking it up a few weeks late.
So I will.
And I would have picked it up this week actually because I was interested after last issue. But with 19 comics already in my pile.
Right. Of course, this is the Harley Quinn variant. I picked this up because, of course, it's Cliff Chang, and I just thought it was a fun cover.
It's a cool
cover. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a big thing at the end of it. Like I said, I don't want to spoil. Really interesting. This is actually other than those first couple issues, I think any criticism about them being rough storytelling, moving beyond the fact that Barbara is really weird in comparison to how she used to be, taking that out of the mix, I think there's some fair criticism of the first couple issues maybe weren't like perfect storytelling. I think it as a story has gotten much stronger. There are some better elements have happened even on the whole Barbara being different in this front for me. And I don't think it's just a matter of I'm getting used to this version. They are addressing some of the crap that I didn't like about this kind of new flavor they've given the character is addressed in some fashion in this. the story is becoming much more interesting as far as that goes. I will say one thing though. I'm really pissed at DC because at the end of this, it tells you if you want to know the origin, you have to go and pick up issue 20 of Secret Origins, which comes out next week. Then come back and read the next issue next month of this to know the full story. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I order my comic books 2 months in advance. 2 months in advance, I wasn't told that I needed to have some separate book from someplace else from a title we all know is getting canceled, and I don't know too many people who are reading it anyway. So I'm kind of pissed at DC for doing that to me. Chances are I can probably scramble and get it because it's a, but I don't know. Secret Origins isn't a book I see sitting on the shelf anywhere, so I do have a little bit of concern that I may not get it. I don't know that I care though. I don't know if it's really going to tell me something that I have to know. That may just be telling me, Batgirl's origin, the fact that she was Batgirl, that she gets shot, that she's crippled for a while, and then she comes back as Batgirl. I think that's what's going to tell me. There's some little bits and pieces in there that I don't want to talk about on air because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but that are interesting. So I'm still kind of happy that I'm reading it as this whole experiment of not just knee-jerk reactionally dropping the book because it's different than what it used to be. It is starting to give me some things that I think are kind of interesting. So.
But they're canceling it?
No, it's not being canceled. No.
Okay.
No, it's...
He meant they're canceling the Secret Origins comic.
Right. Secret Origins, yeah. They're canceling
Okay.
Secret Origins. It's one of the books that's ending when Convergence hit. It just was never very popular. Most people weren't that interested in reading the origins of books that they've just been told very recently. I mean, like telling us the origin of The Flash when The Flash is a new comic basically all over again. What's the point of doing that? But for some reason they felt the need to do that kind of thing. So
I like the 80s ones that came out. Those were good, but it was 80s, 70s.
Well, right, but they were also telling us obscure characters that didn't have their own titles.
Exactly, yeah.
Whereas mostly what Secret Origin has done is tell us the origins of all these books that they have their own title, which clearly if they have their own title, that's where we should be learning about those characters. They should use Secret Origins to tell us about characters that we don't get to see to make us excited for maybe new characters, is how I think the book should have been used. But
like Blue Beetle.
Yeah. Right. So, still reading Batwoman, and Batwoman is still any other description of Batwoman that I have talked about for the last 3 or 4 months. I do kind of like Red Alice. She's nutty, but she's okay. The characterization of her is okay. Partially due to the fact I know no characterization of her because she hasn't had any until this, so that part's fine. The rest of the superheroes in here are continue to be horrible renditions. They're meaningless. Clayface has no memory, so he could technically be a superhero now because he can't. I mean, he's shocked to read the newspapers about how horrible he used to be. But so they literally could turn him into a superhero if they wanted to. But just meaningless. You talk about knowing your book's going to get canceled and you're just throwing whatever crap out you want to. That's where we're at. I think it's one of those books that suffers from art. Oh, no, I take it back. This one just has one person on it. I was thinking this is one of the books that had, it's not, it's very generic art. Oh, I know what it is. Batwoman, Kate Kane has a bunch of tattoos. Always has. She's got a tattoo of her battalion for when she was in the Marines. She's got a bunch of other tattoos. Half the pictures of her in here, she's just walking around as Kate, and she always wears kind of these halter top muscle shirt kind of things. Either she has 0 tattoos, or the tattoos are completely inconsistent. They're just kind of wherever they are. They're never in the same place. Maybe that's me nitpicking, but it's frustrating when you know what the character's supposed to look like. And I mean, they might as well have given her like long hair one time, and then pigtails in the next picture, and a mohawk in the next picture. It kind of comes across the same way to me. So, irritating.
I was always amazed in Birds of Prey pre-52 or New 52 when there was
Starling.
a young lady in there.
Starling.
Yeah. And Starling's tattoos always looked awesome, and Arsenal's, because they always have his tattoo
Right.
shows.
Right. Somebody has a Bible and they actually used it. Because I mean, I know all these companies do. They have Bibles for their characters, so everybody's on the same page on making the characters the same way, right? Clearly, those people didn't get the Bible on what her tattoos were, because they're just kind of, all over the map as far as that goes.
I'm glad I dropped it then, because I wanted that book.
Yeah, I know. So did I, especially all those characters that they were going to put in the book on a team. Yeah. It should have been crazy nuts, and it was just dumb nuts. Yeah. Reading Superman, Wonder Woman. I'm kind of enjoying it. Written by Tomasi. Little to do with their relationship as people. They just happen to be fighting the bad guys together. So that aspect of it has been kind of fun. It's more of a straightforward superhero kind of thing. The bad guy is a bad guy because he's been misinformed. Kind of a thing. But
Are they still dating? Are the two of them still dating or together or whatever?
I mean, yeah, but since I started reading the book, because I just picked up a couple issues ago, kind of when Tomasi got on the book, there hasn't been time for them to really have relations, really. Yeah. They're too busy being attacked by this character named Magog, who's got magical powers, so he's just a wrecking ball when it comes to Superman, because Superman doesn't have a lot of defense against that. And Wonder Woman is getting the eyes of this lady here is Circe, is seriously messing with her. She's an extremely powerful sorceress.
Okay.
So there really isn't time. This is a book that the art is schizophrenic, and the only thing that keeps it held together is the colorist. The colorist colors the entire book, so that helps knit it together. But this is another one of those books that has two pencilers and 3 inkers on it, and it's one of those things where literally one page is done by one inker, the next page is done by another inker, the next page is done by another inker. So, it's not bad, but some parts are more consistent or are more finely done. At least Wonder Woman doesn't look like a 12-year-old. I'll give her that. I mean, she looks like an adult. So I like it for that aspect of it. Anyway, it hasn't been bad. I mean, I'm kind of surprised. I mean, it's not super great, but as far as just a fun-ish superhero comic book that has Superman and Wonder Woman in it, it's fun. I can read this because, like I said, they haven't been putting their relationship in my face because I'm one of those people who does not agree with their relationship. Okay. But I kind of wanted to see what Tomasi, the writer, would do with the relationship in this because I like his work on Batman and Robin. So I'll keep reading for a while. Like I said, I'm curious to get past this arc where I can see him tell a story of their relationship to see if he can make me buy into it or not. I doubt he will be able to, but
that's interesting either way. It's different.
Yeah, I guess. I'd rather see a Batman Wonder Woman book, but that's just me, I guess. So if I'm going to ship something, that's what I'm going to ship. So.
Well, and it makes no sense that they pushed the issue during the villains issue that Batman has his connection with Wonder Woman, and then they just kind of let that go.
Yeah.
He always kind of has, hasn't he?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It depends on what you want to read into the stories that are there and whatnot. Okay. I always think that Batman has a different level of respect for Wonder Woman than just about any other male, the other guys do.
Yeah.
And there's something that appeals in my head anyway. I don't know if it would appeal in Wonder Woman's head, but it appeals in mine. So for whatever that is. But that's it for the books I read. I had other books. I had other Marvel books and other DC books. I just never got around to reading them, so I won't even talk about those.
What was your total this week?
22, 21, 22, something like that.
Oh, so not that much higher than mine.
I think because I still have Wolverine's Suicide Risk, Letter 44, and that Dark Horse Presents, that big old Dark Horse Presents, and an issue of Wicked and Divine that I missed. It just finally got shipped to me. Was the books? Yeah, I'm excited to read it. I just didn't read it because I knew it would be something we'd talk about. So, well,
I'm sure you'll enjoy every gram of Dark Horse Presents.
I hope so. It's got that final Hellboy picture, Hellboy story in it, so I'll enjoy it for that if nothing
Yeah,
else.
has Gabriel Ba ever drawn Hellboy before?
Yes, that story, bits and pieces that have been told throughout these Dark Horse Presents, and
really?
there was a Hellboy 20th anniversary special they put out, and part of it was in that too, I think.
Oh.
Because isn't it? Yeah, it's the Mexico stuff. Anytime Hellboy goes to Mexico, it seems like Gabriel Bra is the person who does the artwork for it. So, and I'm excited by Gabriel Bra, Fabio Moon, those two creators. Just about anything they're on, I'm gonna pick it up, even if it's not Hellboy, just because I like them as characters. They're as creative creators. Right? Yes, okay. The two of them did together. So
okay. I gotta read that still.
Yeah. Excellent book. Looking over some of the comments, some people are saying, wow, they're kicking themselves for not jumping on Flaming Jelly Beans, for not jumping on Multiversity. At this point, if you can find them someplace cheap, I would say pick them up. Otherwise, wait for the trade. I think it'll be kind of a cool trade to be able to pick that up in one big book and read through each of those things. It'll be cool that way, too, because then you'll see, because there is this little element that goes throughout each of them. The comic books kind of travel along with it, and now as we're getting farther into it, the Shazam villain is showing up more and more. So I think those things will be easier to pick out and make sense cohesively together in a trade. So I would think that would be pretty smart. Mercy, yes, you did hear right. There is a Grant Morrison Wonder Woman book. It's a Earth 1 is what they call it books. There's Superman ones. There's Batman ones. There's going to be a Wonder Woman one. Grant Morrison is doing the writing on it. And Paquette, I think is how you say his name, is doing the art on it. He's a pretty lush artist. He did like the first couple arcs of Swamp Thing, for instance, for people who read the New 52 Swamp Thing in the beginning. He tends to have really fancy stylized borders and framing around a lot of his work. The bits and pieces of it that I've seen, because he's on his Instagram page, he's kind of flashed some pictures here and there. It looks really good. Curious to see what Morrison will do with the Wonder Woman story. So I know I'll pick that up
too.
Yeah, and that'll be a graphic novel. You know, that'll be one big book as opposed to, you know, single issues is how they release those. And then my comment feed quit all of a sudden. Any DC news that's come up that's of interest?
I can't think of anything since the announcement of those 24 titles, which was a week ago.
Right, that was the biggie, wasn't it? Yeah. Let's see here.
They did that release for the young girl who wanted more female superheroes, so they drew a picture of her on one of the morning TV shows, made her a superhero.
Oh, right. She was on the Today Show, right? And at the end of it, DC presented her with a drawing of her as a superhero.
Yeah.
I haven't read the article yet. It sounds to me like DC did a pretty decent job of answering her, right? I mean, saying, you know, look, we're trying to, you know, we're working towards that now. I mean, that is a goal of ours to.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess kudos for them for not just blowing her off, right?
And they showed the picture of Jason Momoa as Aquaman.
Oh yeah. So what do we think of the new Aquaman?
I like it. I read the book in trade, but I don't know. I think it's cool the way they did him.
Let's see here. I'll see if I can find a picture of it.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. The only thing is like with everything else, they really mute out all the colors.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
See, that was some people's complaint is that of course that. No, I'm not finding it now.
I would be so glad if Aquaman just lost his orange shirt forever.
Yeah, the gold or orange, depending on how you. Let's see.
That's a ceremonial armor. I
love that. You can have armor, just make it a different color, I guess.
Yeah, I always love that with it. He goes, "These aren't costumes. This is Green Lantern. This is core, uniform."
Okay.
And Aquaman's like, "Yeah, and mine is ceremonial armor."
Okay, so is that there?
Yeah.
So there it is. Unite the Seven. So he's got all these tattoos. He's wearing like the gladiator gauntlet on one side, kind of a thing, and it's tattoos on the other side. Okay, I'll just put it this way: the dude's got a beard, so of course he's cool, right?
Yes.
I like Momoa. Everything he's done has been great.
Beards are so out now.
I know. And if they weren't, this will completely wreck it, right? So, I don't know. I think he look. I mean, there's two sides to look at it. I think he looks like a complete badass. Maybe there's some fair criticism that maybe everybody that's in the movie DC universe shouldn't be so incredibly dark. But I don't know. I think he looks cool.
It could be like they could add more color. Like this could be kind of a black and white shaded version, right?
I don't think it is. I don't think you're going to see a lot more color. You might see some. The armor, the gold that's in the little bits and pieces of armor that he is wearing will show up more. But it's a lot of him is black tattoo work, which I think is interesting. I think that
I think the color is faded out there with Photoshop, so it's hard to know for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen a color version that looked pretty cool, but it was somebody that made it.
But I kind of like the tattooing because it's somewhat reflective, like the Polynesian and the islands and stuff like that. Which if you thought, okay, if Atlantis was a real thing and it was out there, that it might influence those societies to be the way they are. So so for me, in my head, somehow that matches up to if you were going to plant these people in a reality that it makes some sort of
realism.
Sense. More so than him walking around in a giant gold orange scaled, suit of scale mail, which of course is what he's running around in anyways, right?
I don't know if you guys watched Entourage, but like the Johnny Chase version from that show, it was very, very Aquaman-y from the comics.
Yeah. Personally, I thought it would have been funny if they would have gotten an actor to play him like the Brave and the Bold cartoon from a couple of years ago.
That would be a lot of fun.
Outrageous. That would be.
Well, there's the beard there. Maybe he really is going to be that way.
That would be awesome. Can you see Momoa doing that?
No.
All I know is that, like, on Twitter, I saw a bunch of dudes bitching about it because, of course, he's not wearing his suit and and all that kind of stuff. And all I saw was a bunch of girls going, "Yeah, I can get behind this." So I don't know.
If you guys have watched Stargate Atlantis, he's a great actor either way. So I think it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
It depends. I just wonder how much of a role they're even going to write for Aquaman in this.
It really comes down for all of these characters they're going to be, because of course he's going to be in the Superman versus Batman book, the Superman versus Batman movie. It's really script. That's what's going to be important about all these characters. He can look like a total badass. He can be a great actor. If they give him dumb lines, he's going to be dumb, right? Yeah, same with Wonder Woman. If they give them whatever small little role they're going to have in this, as long as they give them decent lines to help for their own movies, it'll be great. If they give them crap, it'll be crap. This is going to set the tone probably for their own movies and whatnot. I think he's going to do a great job if they're going to portray Aquaman closer to the Namor character, where he's more of the arrogant, I am the king of the sea, I'm king of Atlantis sort of thing.
I hope so.
He clearly looks like that. He clearly looks like somebody who is commanding and forceful, and that actor can portray that very well. So, could be exciting.
I just want to see him use his powers with the whoa, 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 whoa.
Same here, man. Talk to some fish, and yeah. I'm all over that. Let's see here. Trying to pick up if there's any more. Yeah, I'm seeing basically what we just talked about with the Aquaman stuff.
Well, people were upset. It should have been David Hasselhoff. He has more experience in the sand than the water.
Oh, good point.
Jason Momoa was on Baywatch as well. So.
Nope. See, he's got you.
There you
That's
go.
right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
All right.
I don't. His trident looks like a rake. Nothing about the costume says Aquaman. He doesn't even have blonde hair. So is that a requirement to have blonde hair to be Aquaman?
He always does, but I don't think so.
That's from Kayla. I guess that's one of those things I question. How close do they have to be to the character? So from her perspective, I'm not putting words in her mouth, but does that mean Superman can be a blonde and we'd still all accept him as Superman?
I don't know if I could.
They made James Bond blonde. They can do it to anybody now. Batman should have been a redhead.
There you go. With freckles, right? With freckles.
Yep.
Make Batman a redhead with a beard who doesn't wear a shirt.
Right on.
Yeah.
All for that. So Stacy Pool S is showing up, and of course, just in time for us to talk about DC movies that she loves ever so much, and which, of course, if you listen to Stacy's things, you know she absolutely hates them. And of course, she says it's really not the acting that's the problem. It's Goyer writing and his arrogance that gets in the way, she thinks. So I would challenge Stacy to look past an interview with Goyer being a dumbass and check the movies out in any way. But yeah, I don't know that I have anything else. I can't think of anything that was been announced about DC that's, other than they've finally shown you can now go and look and see in solicitations what all these spin-off books are going to be that are part of the Convergence, if you wanted to get a sense of what those two-shot stories are going to be like and that sort of thing. So
do you need to read the main title in order to enjoy the two shots?
People keep asking that, and I don't know. I'm not going to. I am actually getting. I'm getting one. I am going to get the question because it's done by Greg Rucka and Cully Hammer, and they were the guys that originally did the Renee Montoya backup story that was in Detective Comics. So I am getting that because it's got, like I said, it's got the question in it, it's got Huntress in it, I think, and I think it's also got Batwoman in it. So I'm excited to see that. So I'm not skipping that. I'm skipping everything else. But even if I wasn't skipping everything else, I probably wasn't going to pick up the weekly title, and I was still going to pick up the other things.
Yeah. I know I'm getting Harley Quinn, so.
Yeah, I have a sense that there is a story in those two-shot things, but some portion of it clearly has to connect to whatever that big thing is.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to get some piece of story, like the Green Arrow one, for instance. You're going to get a retelling of the first meeting of Green Arrow and his son Connor. So you're going to get that piece of story, I would think. If the writers are doing what they're supposed to be doing anyway, you're going to get that little piece of story, and then some element of it's going to then link into the main thing. Just like clearly, I think you can get the main thing and not get any of these other things if you don't want to.
Yeah.
So. But I don't know for sure. Nothing is really going to say. The company clearly is going to want you to buy everything, but
yeah, a wait and see thing anyway.
Yeah, certainly if you're buying them off the shelf at your comic shop, if you have the ability to do that, I would. That's what I would do. Would be a go in, open it up, flip through it. Does it look like you're going to be able to get a story there or not? So
I don't have a choice at my shop. I'm picking up Harley Quinn, so I get Harley Quinn's books.
Right.
That's how he's doing it.
Yeah. So Kayla's saying it's not a requirement to have Aquaman have blonde hair. She just thinks that it adds to the character, which it does. I mean, he is not identifiable as Aquaman. If I didn't know that was a release as Aquaman, and I just happened to be flipping through the internet and I came across that picture, I would go, wow, that's an interesting take on maybe Namor or I don't know who, some other Neptune, or something. I wouldn't identify that as being Aquaman unless somebody told me. Well, plus the fact I knew that actor was going to be Aquaman, so if I saw it, I would identify it as Aquaman. But you're right. There's not really very much other than him having a trident, which every guy under the water has a trident. So there is nothing about that would identify him that way. So yeah, I mean, that character is the farthest thing removed we've seen so far, right? In superhero movies, the farthest thing we've seen so far removed from the original character. So, I mean, that's a fair criticism.
I think it's a sign that they figure no one really... that Aquaman had no fan base to draw.
It's Aquaman. Dang straight, it's Aquaman. Come on.
I don't know, the series that's out right now is pretty good.
I know. There are tons of Aquaman fans. Aquaman is one of those characters I like to pick on, just like picking on Deadpool. So.
Yeah.
Has it continued to be good under Parker, the newer writer on Aquaman?
I haven't read it. I'm reading it in trade, so I get. You know,
Because I read a lot of the Jeff Johns Aquaman, and that was extremely
it was
good.
really good. Yeah.
But I
think
haven't
I've-
tried the Parker Aquaman.
Up to 3, I think the third trade. That's a Fryham. So.
Okay, well, I think we're done. We're just kind of sitting here watching comments go by. So we'll call it a night. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you people for watching and commenting, and hopefully I caught any pertinent comments that were in there, so people feel like you're participating a little more, because that's what I want this to be about. You can't all, or don't want to all be on the show with me, but this way you can still be part of the conversation, and I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys for coming on. Thank you, Michael, for coming on and chatting comics with us. Hopefully we can have you back and talk some more books. You can help fill out our Marvel end of things, since how lots of times the show ends up being a little weak in that category. So I always appreciate getting people on who read more Marvel books, so I can hear about some of the other stuff. Funny that it seems to be this week both me and you read the same book, so that's awesome too.
Yeah,
so
that worked out well.
but yeah, so some of us will be back next week in some sense or another, I'm sure, and we'll be talking comic books again. And I hope you join us then. Anyway, have a good night.
Thanks, Travis.